get your first technology? Hi, I'm Michael Gibbs, and
Hi, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs of Go Cloud Architects. How are you all today? In any case, I hope you're all doing wonderfully. My name is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and I'm really excited to be here. I try hard every Wednesday, although it doesn't always work out time-wise, to be available for you, the Cloud Architect community, to try and help you find your first tech job. I know what it was like when I first started my career, and trust me, it was not easy. I was there practicing internal medicine. I was a nurse practitioner. I had my own office, and I was having a really great time. And I wanted to move into tech. I mean, I really did. Here's kind of what happened as I wanted to move into tech. I got a bunch of certifications, applied for jobs, and I was told no. So many years ago, I had worked with over 50 recruiters. I had spoken to hiring managers, several thousand hiring managers throughout my career, and I built a plan on how you can get hired for your first tech job. And I've used this with so many people over the years, and it's been a really wonderful experience. So I come here several times per week, and I try and answer any questions I possibly have for the community. I love this cloud architecture world. I've been involved in it for as long as I can possibly remember. It's a great place to be. I've been in the network world, which realistically the network was the precursor of the cloud. In fact, 30 years ago, there were clouds. The first cloud I worked with was actually about 25 years ago. It was called Frame Relay, which morphed into another cloud called ATM, which morphed into another cloud, which was basically a BGP VPN, which turned into VPLS, which turned into cloud after cloud after cloud. So these worlds are exciting and fun, and they are rapidly, rapidly growing. So because of these things, we want to do what we can to help you build your career. So today, we're going to give you the opportunity to pretty much ask any question you want about building your career. Ask about your background, ask about your goals, tell us your desires, and we'll do everything we can to help you get there. So this morning, I'd like to see if there's anybody that has any questions. Hello, Bad Weather Freak. It's so good to see you. Good morning, Cloud J. It's so good to see you. Do either of you have any questions, or are you looking to build your career, start your career? Is there anything I can do to help either one of you? I want to make sure that we do anything we can to help you. And please feel free to invite your friends. We really try as hard as we can to help as many people as possible with these kinds of things. So while waiting for some questions, I'm going to talk about a video series that we're releasing this week. I've been noticing there's just a tremendous number of people asking about why it's so hard to get the first tech job and where have all the tech jobs gone? And the reality is the world has changed. And since the world has changed, I wanted to release a video series. And thank you so much, Cloud J. And the reason I created this video series is as follows. Things happen in the world very recently that are so different that are affecting our lives. For example, when I was younger, we'd order servers. We'd hire people that were junior to rack and stack the servers, wire them, cable them, install operating systems. Now it's done on the cloud. So don't worry, people that are new to tech can still get their tech jobs. They've just got to change their tactic. Entry-level admin jobs that we used to have got replaced by other roles where one person can do 10 people's jobs with things like DevOps tools and things. So the world's changing. We just want to make sure that you have the skills to get what you want when you need it exactly the way you want it. So first question I see is from Bad Weather Freak, and it's a great question. What do we guys think of the free AWS courses on their site? Well, I think they are excellent for providing AWS training, meaning what is the name of the service and how to configure it. And if your goal is a cloud engineer, these things are perfect. If your goal is architecture, it doesn't even come close to cutting it. See, I got to say this, I look at everybody's documentation, and I've been documenting. In fact, I wrote public-facing documentation for Cisco when I was there, and I really loved it. It was a great experience. But here's what I noticed. At Cisco, what is the technology? How does the technology work? Why do I use it? And then we talk about configuring the technology. I love Amazon. I really do. Here's their configuration document. Here's how to do what, this. But they don't explain the tech, what it is, how it works, why an organization would use it. So for the architect, this kind of training, while excellent at building junior implementation engineers, and excellent for DevOps people, and excellent for SysOps people, is kind of not so meaningful to the architect. So to the architect, we've got to design. And this AWS documentation is really good for configuring. I mean, it's really good. But here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't explain the storage area network in the data center. Move it to the cloud. It doesn't even talk about it. It doesn't describe the network at all. In fact, the last network advertisement I saw from AWS, and I love AWS, was guess what? We now allow inter to subnet routing, which is called east-west routing. And it looked like such an exciting presentation. And I love AWS. And I looked at it and said, how is this new? I did this 25 years ago. So I wanted to be sure. And I called some other people that were experienced network architects like me, people that had been with CCIE numbers less than 10,000. And they're like, Mike, this is 1999 all over again. So I love this. But what I'm trying to say is if you don't know the 1999, which is still in existence, and you don't know the 2010, and you don't know the 2015, all going to the 2020 cloud, how do you move it there? It's kind of like, how do you design something that you don't understand? You can't. How do you think of a migration if you actually don't know what it is you're migrating? So while I love AWS documentation, it is extremely good for people that already know what they're doing and all you're looking for is something small. Same thing with the courses. I would say this. I would say take those courses to get the AWS perspective because I think they're really good. And then learn architecture if that's your career. And then learn the networking from Cisco. And then learn the security from places like Palo Alto and Cisco and Fortinet. I mean, we do this for our training students. And then, make sure you learn virtualization from VMware and containers from Kubernetes and DNS from like F5 and load balancers from like F5. All the important stuff. Build your portfolio, get an expert portfolio, and then it's fine, then you're in good shape. So Bad Weather Freak, I hope I answered your question. I think the AWS white papers are good to read. I think the free AWS training is relatively good as an intro to beginner level things, but I think you need a lot more. The problem I see is when people just do AWS, and I love AWS, but if you just do this, and you only learn how to do stuff on one vendor, but you don't know how to take the stuff and actually move it to the cloud, you can't do the job. And in today's world, everything is hybrid cloud or multi-cloud. And if they're not teaching that, you still can't do the job. So that's why I actually wanted to make these points. I love AWS. I love the free training. It's far better than anything I found in Udemy. 1,000,000 times better than anything I found on Udemy. So what I did is we created free training for the Certified Solution Architect Associate, Certified Solution Architect Professional, and the AWS Advanced Networking. I recommend you watch that, read the AWS white papers, and ideally be one of our students where we can teach you cloud architecture. But if you're not, go to the sources, Cisco, VMware, make sure you learn all that in addition to the AWS. While you're at it, learn how the cloud works, build yourself an OpenStack Ansible cloud, build yourself a Nutanix cloud, really learn the cloud, and then you should be good to go. I hope I answered your question, Bad Weather Freak, and if you've got subsequent questions, I'd love to answer them. Alicia Ali, how to switch from developer to cloud engineer. Okay, Alicia Ali, what kind of development are you doing? That may give me some more information, but realistically speaking, I have developers turning into cloud architects all the time. And for me, it's easy because I know how to train them. Now, going from developer to cloud engineer, again, relatively easy. So you've got a couple of options here. Option one is if you're a developer already and you want to do more of this engineering thing, really speaking, in the future on the cloud, I think the cloud DevOps engineers are really going to be in a really great place because typically the flow works like this. The cloud architects design, and cloud architects like me need really good business acumen, communication skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, ROI modeling skills, and the ability to present and sell. Oh, by the way, design, which means end-to-end knowledge. The reason I listed those soft skills before the hard skills is they're probably 51% of the picture as an architect, where 49% of it is probably tech, because architecture roles are so business oriented. Now, coming back, taking a step to cloud engineer, a cloud engineer, typically speaking, builds what we cloud architects design. And then after it's done being built, there's a SysOps person that maintains it. Now, there's this kind of amorphous field called DevOps, which is not amorphous, but in the cloud, it's very amorphous, and I'll tell you why. Traditional DevOps is basically automating software release cycles and bringing better quality at greater speed. which I love, by the way. Now, coming out of that, let's say in the world of DevOps in the cloud, look at this. I designed it, and the DevOps engineers can go deploy so much of it through Terraform or automation tools. So if you've got a developer, the cloud engineer, you're really in a good place. So I'd probably look at it this way. I don't know which cloud you desire to be on, but I'm going to say one thing. Associate level certifications are just not enough in today's world. Years ago, they were great. I used to recommend them, but not anymore. The minimum level things is professional level certifications. If I was a software developer, I would get the minimum as the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, because that's kind of a minimum entry-level certification. I'm going to tell you that it sounds like a lot, but it's really nothing. For example, a CCIE like I took was 75,000 pages of reading. You can pass the whole Certified Solution Architect Professional in less than 500 pages of reading. So small by comparison to big. So do that. I would do the DevOps Professional if I was interested in DevOps. And I need to know if you're interested in DevOps, because that would be a DevOps cloud engineer, meaning a cloud engineer that's going to use your development skills to basically automate the releases of things. So where one cloud engineer might be able to do things at one speed, you with Terraform or other devices will be able to deploy so many containers, so much infrastructure literally in seconds as a good developer. So I would say the DevOps cloud engineering is probably the best place. So I would get the Cloud Professional certification, the Certified Solution Architect Professional. I would learn all those DevOps skills if you don't know them, and that's not going to be covered in any of these professional courses. So the Git, which you may know, the Jenkins, Spinnaker, all these things, all these DevOps tools, make sure you know them. And that would probably be a great way to get a cloud and combine a cloud engineering position with your software development skills. So I hope I answered that question. Now, if you'd like to do a different kind of cloud engineering, I can help you build a path for that too, because I don't know your background other than your developer, but that would be one easy to use path that I like to use with developers sometimes. So let me know more, and I'll basically be able to give you more guidance. Okay, Vikram, could you tell me what you mean by systems engineer? The reason I'm asking this is in a lot of cases, systems engineers are pre-sales, which means if you're a pre-sales engineer, meaning you're helping to sell product and close deals, this is much more like architecture in most cases. So while I could teach you how to become a cloud DevOps engineer, the question is, would you prefer to be a cloud architect? It's much higher pay and it's more in line with the pre-sales engineers. Now, if you're a post-sales systems engineer, or you're designing something that's a different title, I need to know that as well, and I can give you a different pathways. So if you can tell me exactly what you've done as a systems engineer, is it networking, is it data center, is it pre-sales, is it post-sales, what your actual background is, the things that you've worked on in the number of years, I'll give you a really good answer for that, because I want to help you. It's just that systems engineer, for me, I was a systems engineer for a year or two, and all I did was architecture and sales, like literally all of it. Never touched the router and did anything. So systems engineers are generally speaking pre-sales, but they could be a lot of anything. So if you let me know, I'll answer your question, Vikram, because I want to help you. I just need the right information to help you with the right decisions. Larry, welcome. I'm so happy to see you here. Bad weather freak. Well, you're a complete noob, no experience looking to get into the cloud. What would be the fastest way to get into the cloud? Well, I don't want to sound self-serving. The fastest thing that I know would be to take our program, which would be about 6 to 8 months for you, and it's pretty much a full-time program, and 20, 30 hours a week. And by the end of that 6 to 8 months, you'll have a job. So if you're on your own, I would go, and it's not going to be so easy. I did things on my own. In fact, I was a nurse practitioner. Loved it. And here's what I did on my own. I took a $5,000 5-day boot camp in 1999, mind you. Then what did I do? Which I did next was the following. After I did this, and so for example, sorry, I've got all these messages coming in and they're popping on my screen, and it's making me a little confused. So first I did a $5,000 boot camp. Then I locked myself in a room for 4 days and became a CCNA. And that's all it took, was 4 days of hard work. Then I took an $11,000 10-day boot camp for the CCNP. Then on my own, I studied for the CCDA and passed the CCDP exam. So I did this on my own. It cost me about $25,000 when all was said and done. I had some interview coaches, some executive coaches. So that's what I paid to get my first tech job. Now I'm going to tell you this. It cost me 25 grand. The salary bump that I got from practicing medicine to tech was paid off in a couple of months, literally a couple of months. And it added more than 6 figures to my salary for the first 2 years of my career. And then after that, I learned business acumen, soft skills, executive presence, communication skills, and it was a big deal. So I'll put it this way. My program is basically 1 day's pay for a cloud architect. And I'm pretty sure that if you wanted to get into the cloud, I could save you 9 months, which basically speaking at $12,000 a month, which is the pay for an average cloud architect. 6 months, I can save you $72,000. 9 months, I can probably give you about $100,000 worth of value at 1 day's pay. So that's got a pretty good ROI. So I can tell you how we do it. If you're on your own, I'm going to tell you this. Pass the Certified Solution Architect Professional, which is nothing. Then get some kind of industry certification, such as a CCNP, a CISSP, or something based upon the career you want. Then study ROI modeling. Then basically take some executive communication classes. I did. I spent $250,000 with help for this, but definitely do it. Got to take some of these classes if you're not with me. Take some executive writing courses, some executive presentation courses. Make sure you learn how to sell with ROI modeling, so learn business acumen. So it takes me 500 hours to teach this. And I know how to take 1,000 pages and boil it down to a few. So that's the best advice I have you. So do it our way, or there are some organizations that actually provide decent training. You can take some of these courses, like you could take a CCNP course at Global Knowledge. It'll be $10,000, $15,000, but you can basically do that. And then you can take a Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional from a place like Global Knowledge, not Udemy, a place that actually cares about you knowing, that's going to teach you, that's going to have someone that knows what they're talking about. Again, on 1 day's pay, they're expensive, but that's how you do it. You get quality education. You learn it better than anybody else in the world. You focus your time, your effort, your love on one thing, and you do it. I went from healthcare to lead architect at the world's largest ISP inside of 6 months. It wasn't easy. It was hard. I read. Here's what my life was like. I'd get home from work. I'd read from 6 until midnight every day. And on the weekends, I had rented, a rack, a CCIE rack. It was $200 a day in those days. And I did it every day for 6 months. When I was done, I was a CCIE and it was all done. So I just want you to know what could be done. There's lots of different ways to do it. I don't need to work. I love what I do. I love to educate people. We basically have a course that covers our costs plus a little bit extra. And that's what we do because we care about the community. So there's your options. You could do it with us. And those are the ways you could do it on your own. But in either case, you can do it. And I know you can do it. Don't worry about your background. Just go do it. Go after it. Go after what you want. Great things will happen to you. I hope I answered your question there, bad weather freak. And I live in Florida, so I'm used to bad weather. Okay, Vikram Viku. You're a design engineer working with VMware, Linux, and Windows servers, networking. You have a CCNA certified. So the question I have for you is this. Do you want to be an architect or would you want to be a DevOps engineer? So I could teach you how to become a DevOps engineer, but it's going to be easier to make you an architect, and you'll probably earn double as an architect than you will as a DevOps engineer. So here's what I would say. If you really wanted to do everything where you're coming from DevOps engineer, first you're going to have to become a good programmer, which you may already be. Then after you do all your programming, then you're going to have to learn all the DevOps tools. Then you have to learn cloud, because if you want to do cloud DevOps, which you have to do cloud, all of that would work. Now, if you want to do architecture, and you're already doing pre-sales at VMware and all these other kind of things, what is it that the architects need to know? The network and the data center. So if you've got a CCNA, and here, that's something. So we build on that networking knowledge a little bit. We add some BGP. Then we work on, for example, virtualization and containers, which is really great. Add a little bit more networking, add a little bit more data center technology, such as load balancers, firewalls, those kind of things. Work on the business acumen piece, and poof, and executive presence piece, and poof, you're now out there as a cloud architect with double the pay of the DevOps engineer. Or you could become a DevOps engineer. Make sure you're a good coder first. You have to be a good coder to be a DevOps engineer. After that, take the DevOps training, and there's not a lot of that. Get expert knowledge of all these DevOps tools. And heck, get some cloud knowledge too, because a lot of this DevOps is being done on the cloud, and you'll also be good to go. So the question is which you really prefer and what your goals are. If your goal is career flexibility, be an architect, because you can go from cloud architect to enterprise architect to manager, leaders much easier. If you love being behind the computer and you really love coding and you love playing with those tools, that's how you would become a DevOps engineer. Again, a really great career. I love DevOps. In fact, I'm collaborating with my good friend Sandeep Daz, and we're releasing a How to Get Your First DevOps job program. And it's going to be coming out soon, like in the next few months. I think DevOps is a great career, but you're already on what sounds like the pre-sales side of it. So it's almost for you, you're going to have to basically learn a completely different skill set, which would be good. Where to be an architect is more in line with your skill set. So it's got greater pay and it's going to be a lot easier for you to get there. But we can get you either one. So let me know a little more desires and I'll give you much more information. Hi, Kelvin. You joined our session yesterday, but didn't get to stay till the end. You're a geologist and want to move in IT. Please, what career path can I do or use? Anyone you want. See, Kelvin, I love the geology background. You're a scientist. I typically sign geologists, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I work with a lot of geologists that work in the oil industries and other environments where they're digging into the ground. Here's what's so good. As a geologist, you have to think about things. There's calculations that go on. You're typically consulting with a client with the ground is this dense. The ground is doing these kinds of things. In order to get to the ground, I need this kind of a drill. I need this kind of density. I need this kind of time. You're consulting. You're evaluating all the data of all these things going on around you. And then you're providing a solution. So, guess what? What do you think we do in tech? In medicine, I'll give you my example. I came from medicine. I'd meet with a patient. I'd ask the patient a bunch of questions. I'd evaluate the patient, make a diagnosis, and there was the solution. What do you think I do as an architect? I meet with a client. I ask them questions. I assess their current systems. I make a diagnosis, and the plan is the architecture. It's the same job. So what you're doing now ties very nicely into a lot of these jobs. So pick what you desire. If you like to be a person that goes out there, interacts with their client, asks questions and designs things and presents it back to the customer, architecture is good for you. If you like to be on a computer all day and staring at that screen and really thinking about it and being super deep, that's great. Engineering is great for you. So Calvin, I will happily get you to any location you want, but kind of tell me if you want what your desires are. Do you like being behind the computer? Do you like to be customer facing? And then I can help you pick something you like. Do you like networking? Do you find security interesting? Do you like cloud? Whatever you want. I've been coaching people for tech jobs for 20 years, and I can help you get there. Just tell me what you like. Tell me what you love. Here's the key when you're switching industries. You have to love it. I mean, you have to love it. See, networking for me is my love. I love it. The cloud is just an extension of the network for me, but I loved it. I got to tell you, in 1999, I was spending $30,000 a year buying tech because I thought it was cool. That's like $50,000, $60,000 a year now. My wife said, hey, wait, since your whole love is tech, just go buy it. Just go work in tech, and then we don't have to spend, half of your salary or a third of your salary buying tech gears. And I did, and it changed my life. So, Kevin, what do you enjoy? Tell me what you like. Do you want to be customer facing? And I'll give you some guidance. Do you want to be behind the computer? I'll give you some guidance. I don't mean to confuse you. I just need to know what you like. Because if you tell me things that you actually enjoy, I'm in a position to basically guide you. So, do you like being customer facing? Do you like being behind the computer? What do you find interesting? So we can do as follows. We can actually provide a phone number. So if you guys have any questions about how to train or get somewhere, we will provide a phone number. And I'll put it in, I'll put it in YouTube. I think we're also streaming to LinkedIn. So Chris from my team, if you could pop that number and actually place it inside of wherever it's going to be so the people on LinkedIn can see it as well. Oh, Kevin, you said you started cloud solution architecture. Well, if you enjoy that, that's fantastic. So now, if you tell me you started solution architecture, now, Kelvin, do you like solution architecture? Because if you like solution architecture, I can easily build you a plan. If you don't, so You said you started cloud solution architecture. Do you like that? Because if so, that's the easiest thing in the world for me to tell you what to do. I just want to make sure. And then after that, there's lots of people that have questions on, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, if you give me some more information, I'll do it. If you choose to call me, Kelvin, I'm more than happy to speak to you. So there's a huge delay here. So if you really wanted to talk to me, great. If you've got a question, you want to post it in the chat, I will answer it. In the meantime, I'm going to answer. Okay, you're going to call me? Okay, great. So that'll work perfect. So Kitsumi G, hi, hey, new to the channel, welcome. And Kitsumi G, and you're wondering how you can become a cloud architect. Well, there's two ways to do it. And that's all we do at Go Cloud Architects. So I'm going to give you the two options. That's okay. We've got lots of people, Kelvin, in Germany, lots of people in Africa, lots of people in India, lots of people in Asia. So your location is, just tell me and say, I know which time zone you're in. So we'll call you after this call, or call me after this call if you send me a message. So you're new to the channel. How do you become a cloud architect? So I'll explain this. Here's the process to be a cloud architect. You first need to learn the network. The next thing is you need to learn the data center. Why is it so important to know the network in the data center? The cloud is just a virtual network in a data center. That's it. It's the same thing that we've been building for 30 years. Nothing's changed. Here's what it is. We took the network in the data center. We install a little bit of control plane software, basically something to manage it. And that basically pushes out to all of our servers. And then when somebody needs a server, for example, it gets placed somewhere on those groups of servers. This is all managed by the control plane, the software that gets installed in the cloud, and all your servers and your storage and your load balancers and all this stuff, that's the data plane or the forwarding plane that basically gets your stuff from point A to point B. So it's nothing different. So what is a cloud migration? What does a cloud architect do? They take things from the data center and they move them to the cloud. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't design something that I don't understand. And since all cloud architects do, 90% of our job is what's called lift and shift, taking stuff from the data center, rehost it in the cloud, taking virtual machines from the data center, rehosting it in the cloud, taking a server, moving it, taking your storage, move it, take a disk, move it. Now, there's all these cool, innovative things we can do with cloud native, but for the most part, there's not much going on there. So it's all lift and shift and hybrid clouds and multi-clouds. So if you want to be a fantastic cloud architect, if you want to have a great career, learn the network in the data center. Then learn the cloud, which is just a network in a data center. So with my students, we teach all of it. So we start with the network, then we go to the data center, then we go to the cloud. What else is critical to be a cloud architect? Well, predominantly communication skills. I got to say this. The best engineers, unless they have good communication skills, can never be cloud architects. I used to wonder why they had these enterprise architects and all these architects early in my engineering career, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year 25 years ago. And here's what's going on. They had all these executive communication skills, sales skills, executive presence, communication skills, all those things. So that's what it is. So there's two ways of becoming an architect. One, we have the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which is based upon my 30 years or my 25 plus years experience in technology, my 20 years experience as an architect, and my 20 plus years experience helping people get their first tech jobs or architect jobs. And I've got students at every cloud provider at this point, and all the consulting companies, and many, many global enterprises around the world. So the easiest answer is we have a Cloud Architect Career Development Program, Kitsumi. Basically, it's about 1 day's pay for the average cloud architect. We don't need to work around here. We do this as a service for the community and a partial side retirement business. But we've got students and they do great. So you could take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Chris from my team will put a link to the program along with a 20% coupon off. Now, if you're not with us, here's what you do. You go to Cisco and you learn all about the network. You learn about routing, meaning BGP, OSPF. You learn about VLANs, 802.1q tagging, trunking. You learn about NAT and all the use cases, and it's not just to connect to the internet. You learn about QoS. You learn about rate limiting. You learn traffic engineering with BGP. You must know BGP well, and trust me, that is not the simplest protocol, but you must know it well. Then after that, you need to know firewalls, IDS, IPS systems. Now you know some security. Then you need to learn storage, and that's nowhere close to say, hey, object storage is S3. You must know object storage. You can't say EBS is block storage. You need to know block storage. How are you going to have that 10-hour conversation with somebody at the customer site if all you know is S3S object storage? So you need to know that. So you can get that information from Dell EMC, a couple hundred pages. So a few thousand pages of reading from Cisco. If you're not with us, no big deal. A couple hundred pages, basically speaking, on firewalls and knowledge. After that, what else do you need to know? You need to know storage. Again, Dell EMC. Virtualization of VMware. Got a VMware, a couple of thousand, well, not that bad, maybe 500 pages. Containers, learn from Kubernetes and Docker. Then when you're done, go to Microsoft and learn about IAM. And when you're done that, do what all my students do, build a cloud. I'm not joking, make your own cloud. Every one of my students does. All of them. They have to build the cloud because when everybody else is saying, hey, I set up an S3 bucket, you can tell the hiring manager, you built the cloud, you got to put these things on your resume. You got to put them in your CV. You got to look experienced. So I got to say this, you're going to do great if you do all these things. Now, if you're one of my students, it's all lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, lesson 6, live class Monday through Friday. Send your questions to us on Slack and we'll get you there. So the easiest way is to take our course. But if not, you can do that. That's how you get the technical piece. Now, outside the technical piece, if you're not with us, get some presentation skills class. And you're going to have to spend some money here because this is expensive, but it'll make a difference in your career and your salary. Learn some negotiation skills because you're going to be negotiating a lot as an architect, not just your salary when you get hired, but also, what do you call it? But also to negotiate deals. Make sure you get some presentation training because you're going to be presenting to executives. Get some CXO relevancy training. Learn how to communicate to the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CTO. Then learn leadership because you're going to literally have 20 plus people working for you as an architect to design things. And then basically learn how to close deals. So learn some sales skills. So Kutsumi, I've given you 2 options. 1 is ours, simple, elegant. And 2 is what to do on your own. Now, I got to say this. The other thing that you need to do is get your hands-on experience. I'll tell you what my students do. All my students VPN into my data center. And once they get into our data center, well, here's what our students do. First, they work with server virtualization. Then they build containers. They build firewalls. They build they build VPN concentrators. They set up the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, because it's the basis of web apps. And they do it the hard way on my servers. In the cloud, anybody can do it in seconds, but my students learn the hard way. Then my students set up NFS sharing, because you got to know about file sharing. They also do SMB server message block sharing with Windows. Then when they're done that, they set up Active Directory. And then every one of my students builds a cloud. Every one of them. You need to know what the cloud is. The cloud is this mystified data center network. And once you build it, you know exactly what it is. You can consult with your customers. Oh, by the way, there's no such thing. Basically, 85 to 90% of all customers are now hybrid cloud or multi-cloud. So it's not going to be all cloud native, and it's not going to be on one provider. So you got to know these skills. So Kutsumi, I hope I answered your question. I told you how to do it with us, which is by far the fastest and cheapest program. Remember, every day, the cloud architect on average earns $600 a day. A good cloud architect easily earns double that. So every day you're not working, you're losing $600 if you desire to be a cloud architect. So our program's the fastest, but I've given you the free way as well. Hope I answered your question. Jaitin Shah, you are new to the cloud. Well, welcome. It's a great place here. You have to start your cloud journey. How do you start? You're a systems admin with having knowledge of storage, VMware, and backup. That's a start. So Jaitin Shah, what cloud job do you desire? Because that's going to have a completely different development path. Cloud architects have one, cloud engineers have another one, the maintenance people, the sysops people. So if you can tell me exactly what you want to do in the cloud, then I can tell you. But I need to know exactly what goal career you have, because otherwise I could be advising you for somebody else's career. So let me know, and I'm excited to answer it. Bad weather freak. Did the discount codes expire? No, but I will tell you this. My team is not going to let me keep the current price that we have for very long. I basically offered a course at almost the same price it cost us to run the course. And as I've been hiring on more people, you know, people hire customer service reps. I hire MBA data scientists to make sure my students do well. So the discount codes will not expire, but I think the price will not be the same at some point in the future. See, here's the thing, and I can even tell you what we've done recently just to enhance the community. We bought an incredible number of servers, like an incredible number of servers that are literally sitting here in our data center. We haven't even had a chance to take them out of the box. In the last 2 weeks, I spent $20,000 on video gear to make sure that we can do many more live shows to help the community for free. We bought a 6K Blackmagic camera. We're running a 32-core Threadripper system with Quadro cards in order to do this kind of video stream. By the way, how's the quality? Because we wanted to give you the best experience in the world. We have more servers than you can possibly imagine. We're running Cisco enterprise-grade firewalls. We have an entire Cisco network. We've got studio lighting that's literally coming in from every place that you can possibly imagine. We have more tech, but we do it all for you, or we do it for our students as well. Our students do all kinds of things. Our students learn all kinds of things, and my students are thrilled. And every day, or at least a couple times a week, a student says, I'm hired. It makes me happy, and it makes me excited. So that's why we're doing this. So let me get to the next question. It looks like you're not sure if you should do sysops or architect. Okay, Jayden Shaw. So great question. So with your background, you're already doing sysops. Sysops is just a systems administrator. So you've got two options, and I'll give you both. SysOps, or Systems Administration and Operation, basically speaking, would be very easy in the cloud. I'd still say the lowest level of certification to even think about working on the cloud is the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional. Nothing less than that is going to work unless you've got 20 years experience. Or you come from networking, in which case it's almost irrelevant. I know lots of CCIEs that get senior principal and distinguished cloud architect roles without even having a certification. But unless you've got something like a CCIE or 20 years experience for a Cisco or a Juniper or one of these big companies that's been building and working on clouds for decades, I'd say that's, you're going to use so. SysOps would be easy. Certified Solutions Architect Professional, and get the SysOps course. Make sure your Python skills are strong. Make sure your scripting skills are strong. Make sure your Terraform skills are strong, and you'll be great in SysOps. Now, here's the thing with SysOps. If the cloud architect designs it, they're by far paid the most because they're closest to revenue. The cloud engineer builds it, again, they're closer to the revenue, they get paid one thing. When you go into SysOps, the salaries really go down. And the reason the salaries go down is you're far away from the customer. And let's face it, if we don't have anybody to maintain these systems, they fall apart. So these SysOps roles are very important. Just know the SysOps roles have very limited career potential because you're far away from the customer. And because these roles don't have a lot of communication skills as a general rule, realize there's not a lot of potential. So you can do SysOps right there, that's the path. Now, if you wanted to do architecture, which I would recommend, and here's the reason. Architecture, your career plan is unlimited, it can go like this. And architecture has freedom. For example, as a SysOps, you're going to be in that office all day, staring at the screen, staring at monitoring things, looking at syslog files and writing scripts. If you enjoy that, it is a great career. But if you're like me, you don't like working in a NOC. You don't like hearing beeping sounds all day long. And you don't like staring at 30 screens, and you want to go out there and you want to talk to the customer and you want to design something, then it's architecture. So if you want architecture, here's the path. Learn the network and the data center in depth, like I just tried to describe for someone else. Then work on those communication skills. Take a course or take our training, it's all covered there. Work on executive presence. Here's executive presence. Hi, I'm here to talk to you today. I know a lot about this. I'm here to discuss cloud computing with you and talk about how it can change your business. For example, just that. You can feel the energy in the person in the room. Then it's about presenting technology. Engineers do this. Because of this, and this. Here's how we came up with this. Architects do this. Here's the solution, Mr. CEO. Here's the substantiating evidence as to why. Completely different thinking. We start with the outcome in mind. Engineering writing, all the technical steps to do it. Architecture writing, make it so that the CEO can understand it. Make a document for the CEO. Make a document for the engineers. Make a document for the architects. Go present these documents totally different. Architect, convince the customer they need your solution. Architect, do an ROI model and show them that they spend $100 million on the solution, but it's going to deliver $300 million in business value over the next 4 years. And therefore, it's used the organization's financial resources to do this. The architect, get buy-in. architect entertain your clients, architect go to presentations. So those architecture worlds, you can do it. Train all those business things and all the technology things. So Jayden Shaw, did I answer your question? And after I gave you that path for sysops and I gave you the path for architecture, if you've got more questions, please ask. I'd love to help. Bad weather freak? Well, here's what I have to say. If your question is if you're worried about overtime on weekends, none of these tech jobs are actually going to be appropriate. So here's the thing. All good jobs that I know, whether they be medicine, whether they be engineering, whether they be architecture, whether they be physical therapy, occupational therapy, any leadership position, any management position, any good company, there's no such thing as a 40-hour week. None. Now, I've had 80-hour weeks and I've had 10-hour weeks. I've worked on weekends and not weekends. But you got to even understand, what is the weekend? You know, in the US, we have our weekend, but in the Middle East, they have a different weekend. So if you're working in the Middle East, which is very common, there's lots of money, lots of projects, lots of things and exciting things going on. Guess what? You're working their weekend. You're not working their weekend, but their weekend and our weekend is different. If a customer has a problem and it's 8 o'clock at night, you're on the phone. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still on the phone. Now, as an architect, it's much, much, much less than the engineers. The engineers are constantly being pulled in all different directions. The architects are being pulled in when there's a problem, so we can manage things with the customer. We can smooth things out. We can go on site. We can talk about, being there with a leader to bring in all the other fixers. Sure, we're going to do that. So all good jobs, there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 job. Not any. Zero. None. Here's the thing. If someone's going to pay you $100 or $150 an hour, the equivalent, because it's no big deal to get the average salary, which is $150, and there's no big deal to earn $300,000 as an architect either. Experienced architects like me get offers for this every single day of the week. All of us do. So we're not a $10 an hour job. The people are paying us for our knowledge, our wisdom, and our ability to help our customers. And that just doesn't have a clock with it. It's either 9 to 5 one day. It could be 7 to 7 one day. It could be 9 to 2 noon and then go to the beach. I had many days as an architect where, because I lived in Palm Beach, I spent all day at the beach. And I had many 18-hour days too. All I can say is I loved it. And if you love what you do and you make your vacation, your vocation, like Mark Twain says, you'll never work. I've never worked in a day in my life. After I left medicine, I haven't done a single day's pay work. I've gotten paid a lot to do something I love, which is basically my vacation. So I've never worked. But I don't want to mislead you. There is no such thing as a 9-to-5 job in any professional job. Not for a doctor, not for a lawyer, not for an accountant, not for anybody that has a job that pays them more than, say, $40,000 a year. It just doesn't exist. You're in, you're there, you're committed. I hope I answered your question, Bad Weather Freak, because that's the honest answer. Who else has questions? I get the concept. You don't want to have a high-paying job but no life. Those of us that have these jobs absolutely love them, and we're super happy in our careers. I just don't know really of any good job where it's only 40 hours a week. On none of them. Because here's the other component, and I see Cloud Learner's got a great question. Even if you could work 40 hours a week, or even if you could get away with nothing, do you want to be great or do you want to be good? Here's what all these organizations do. They stack rank their employees, and they have bonuses they can do which are related to your performance. And here's what happens. If you do really great, your bonus could be even double or triple your salary in certain cases. I've had some bonuses that you can't even imagine. But here's the thing. The people that organizations don't like a lot, the bottom 5% or 10% gets let go every year at high performance organizations, and that's how they keep people that want to be there. And when there's a layoff, it's sad to say, but organizations typically don't lay off their best players. They don't lay off their hard workers. They lay off the people that contribute least to the organization. So I don't think you'll ever have a job like this and have no life. I've loved what I've done. I've had a great life. I don't know of any architect that's unhappy. None. and I haven't in the last 20 years. Architects love what we do because we're not on the computer. You know, half of our job could be buying lunches, dinners, and drinks for people at the company credit card. One year, I spent $100,000 a year in 1 year on lunches in my architect role because it was literally on site every day to try and gather intel. And I was on site to assist the customer. And basically, I took them to lunch every day. I had an incredible relationship with the customer. I think 1 year, all I did was buy lunches and dinners and drinks. I'm not joking. It was a big architecture project, and I led a team, but I loved it. Other jobs, I was on site and I was working hard. So I hope I answered your question with honesty and integrity there. Cloud learner. Great question. I am just starting out. Would you suggest I do the AWS practitioner, associate, or go straight for the professional? Cloud learner, that's an exceptionally good question. I'm going to say this, and it's a completely unpopular position, but I don't care because I want to help you. Don't do the AWS cloud practitioner. Don't do the AWS cloud practitioner. And here's the reason why. There is no chance, for the most part, like less than 1%, that you could potentially get hired with the cloud practitioner. Not a chance. In fact, your chances of getting hired with the certified solution architect associate, unless you have 20 years experience, is about 5%, maybe 10%. Only when you have the AWS certified solution architect professional, typically speaking, do you have the minimum level of certification. Now I'm going to say this too. Certifications don't get you hired. Again, certifications will not get you hired. Certifications will help you get an interview. And if you know what you're doing, and you speak well, you write well, your energy, your enthusiasm, your attitude, your executive presence is good, and your knowledge is good, your competency is good, then you can win the interview. So the certifications help you get the interview and do teach you a little bit. I like to say that passing the certified solution architect professional is 10% of what's necessary to becoming a cloud architect. The other 90% is what we teach. So I would say this, skip that practitioner. It's a complete and total waste of your time. The associate exam is almost the same. And since it's almost the same, do the following. Skip that practitioner. It's going to save you 2 months of wasted effort. The average salary of a cloud architect is $600 a day. 2 months of wasted effort is costing you $24,000 to go take that exam that will give you no value whatsoever. So if you're new, go straight to the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Take that and go straight to the professional. Do not stop and pass go. Do not do sysops. Do not do DevOps. If you want to be an architect, go straight to the professional. So associate and professional. Now, if you're like me and you've got a lot of tech background, I took a Saturday and a Sunday, read a Cybex book, and became a gold professional cloud architect. I did it in 2 days. Why? I already knew the cloud. I've been building the cloud forever. So for me, it was nothing. So if you're experienced, go straight to the professional. If you're new, do the associate. Now, but there's 2 months that you save. Instead of wasting your time on this practitioner that has no career prospects whatsoever, spend those 2 months on learning the tech. Learn the networking. Maybe get a CCNA in the same time. Or maybe get a Red Hat certified administrator in the same time. What do you need? You got to show that you know data center and network. So that gives you some network with the CCNA. It gives you some data center with the Red Hat Linux, because that Linux is the main infrastructure of everything, including the cloud. It's all built on Linux. So by doing that, then you've got a portfolio. But I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend against doing that cloud practitioner. It takes a lot of time. Time equals money, and it offers no career benefits whatsoever. Hope I answered your question there, Cloud Learner. Who else has questions? Jaychen, I'm so glad we were able to ask your questions. Ash, I see you've got a question there. So Ash, what is the roadmap for becoming a cloud architect for a new compute graduate? Well, I've got lots of them and they're doing it all the time. And I've had one person, for example, and came into my program. It's very rare. And he was with AWS within 3 weeks. But here's the roadmap for becoming a cloud architect after school. Realize in school, they give us all a nice little theoretical framework for lots of things. I love school. I've got a couple master's degrees, so I'm not saying anything against school. I worked with a tremendous number of people while they were in college. And why I work with them is so by the time they got done school, they could get hired. So when you are done school, in today's world, you're fighting a big uphill battle. What's happened? The educational systems teach us a lot of great theory, but it's not exactly what we do in real life. There is a massive, massive flood of college graduates and laid off people because of COVID. Don't worry, Ash, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. So you got that. So now you got to compete with a lot of people. Don't worry, you can still know what to do. Here is the key when it's your first job, especially when you're young. I'm going to make a video about this, but when you're young, like people say, if I'm 50, am I too old? No, if you're 50, it's easy for me to get you a job. When you're young, assuming you're young, I can still do it, but it's still harder. Here's the reason. Here's what the biggest challenge for you to overcome is. I get a 50-year-old, they got a little bit of gray hairs, they've worked in accounting, but now they're here, they know the tech real good, and they go to the client, they know how to look the client in the eye, and they know how to frame things in the speech the client understands. And the client sees a couple of gray hairs, and they're like, oh, wow, this is a person that's experienced. I'm not joking. So when you're younger, here's your strength. When we get older, we have wisdom. We've experienced things, and we can relate our experiences to different things. When you're younger, you learn faster. At no point in your life can you learn faster than when you're young, fresh out of school, where you've just been taught how to learn, how to study, how to pass exams. So you're in a really good place for that reason. So what do we have to do? Well, I'm going to talk about the non-tech piece first, and then I'm going to talk about the tech piece. Why am I going to talk about the non-tech piece first? Because it's more essential for you than anyone else. You have to walk into that interview and convince the hiring manager that you're the best thing in the world, that you're so likable, you're so knowledgeable, your energy, enthusiasm, and passion for tech are so high that you're going to do anything you can to be the best in the world. That is really critical. Show them honesty, integrity, know what you know what you don't know. That is critical, but show them you are well behind your years. So if you've got any social media out there, like most young people, if there's anything political, get rid of it. You can't have anything that doesn't like conservatives versus liberals or socialists versus conservatives, whatever term you use, depending upon the country. You can't have it. Here's why. 50% of the population thinks differently than you. So you're there. You've got a Facebook post that shows you drinking, for example. Get rid of it. Doesn't paint you in the highlight. Remember, you got to look like a 40-year-old mentally. 2, you've got a post that says, I don't like these people because they are a different political philosophy than they. And they teach this in schools. So get rid of that. Here's why. I know as an architect, the strength of my team is the diversity in people. I've got a cloud architect, an IAM architect, a security architect, a cloud engineer, a DevOps engineer, and half a dozen of these people. That's what I need in my team. The second someone has a political post that says, I don't like these people, 2 things happen. One is 50% of the population disagrees with you and you already lost them all. And this is very common on young people. 2, of the people you didn't lose with the 50%, people like me are going to say, this person just said they don't like working with Democrats, or this person just said they don't like working with conservatives, or this person said they don't like this. I can't hire anybody on my team that doesn't like anybody. Why? I need my team to be cohesive. I need people to work together hand in hand. I want everybody to be together and happy and good. So if you've got that on your resume, which is common with people that are done school, get rid of that. So that's fixing your personal brand now. Next, communication skills. Learn to speak. If you're in my class, great. If you're not my class, go to Toastmasters and do it again and again and again until you can present. We teach it at a much higher level than that and much better, but you got to do something. 2, learn the network. We teach all of our students networking somewhere between the level of CCNA and CCNP because that's the minimum level. Learn the network. If you don't have a network, you don't have anything. Learn the data center. All the stuff that goes in the data center. Servers, containers, firewalls, load balancers, IDS, IPS systems, storage, block storage, file storage, object storage, storage areas networks, fiber channels, all of this. All of this. Do that. Then learn how to take what's in the data center and migrate it to the cloud by matching similar systems or redesigning systems or optimizing systems. Then make sure you're familiar with all the clouds because you're never going to be on just a single cloud. Then maximize your projects. Build some projects that are going to show you have experience. So for example, my students all VPN into my data center because you've got to have experience on your resume. And when my students VPN into my data center, here's what they do. First, they set up server virtualization. After they set up server virtualization, they build containers. Then they build firewalls, they build VPN concentrators, they build a Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stack. Then my students set up Active Directory, then they build file servers, NFS, then they deal with sandbox shares. Then my students work with Active Directory, and then my students work with the cloud. You've got to get experience on your resume. It has to be there. Experience can't be, I configured an EC2 instance, because no one cares. I set up an S3 bucket, no one cares. Now you list the things that I'm telling you because you've done them. And in order to do this, you can be my student, or you can buy yourself a 16-core Xeon server with a minimum of 120 gigs of RAM and 3 SSDs in a RAID 0 environment or an NVMe drive, because you're going to need that performance. Build all these things. If you're my students, you create a Go Cloud Architect section, and you list these things as if it's a real job. Work with server virtualization to promote enterprise-wide computing. Set up Docker and Kubernetes, set up Docker containers to enable this application. Built-in IP tables US firewall to protect an organization. Set up an open SSH VPN concentrator to allow external users private access to the network. Deployed an enterprise-wide Active Directory server to assist with authentication, authorization, and accounting services. Built an OpenStack Ansible cloud to enable cloud services in an organization's data center to promote scalability, flexibility. That's the kind of stuff that's going to be there. And then after that, you can put the stuff that says, sure, you know how to do it. But I use an 8-year-old to configure S3 buckets and EC2 instances for me because she's real cute when she does it. Nobody's going to pay you a lot of money to do that. So just understand the skills. So these are what you need to do. We've got a program for it, which we could help you with. But you can do these on your own via that matter. That's my suggestions for you. It's based upon 20 years of experience, coaching people to get their best jobs or their first job. Okay, Arthur Love, how to get corporate cloud experience. This is one of these chicken and the egg problems. You need to get experience to be hired, but people don't want to hire you. So realistically speaking, you're going to have to get your own experience first. So Arthur, I have this program, and people come to my program, they get experience, they list us as a job. We make so we find internships in addition to the training program. We find lots of things so we can show people have real data center experience and real cloud knowledge. So that would be my recommendation. If you're not with us, here's what I would do. Buy a 16-core server. Do every single lab that we've done. Now, mind you, I've suggested buying the 16-core server for decades now. I've had people, they weren't always 16 cores, but I've been having all my students buy a server forever. Now, when I used to tell my students buy a server, it was $500. Here's what happened. Global supply chains due to COVID got changed, unfortunately, which now means that same $500 server is now $1,500. So what did I do? I bought more than you can imagine, and I include the server access in my course. So all my training is basically half the cost of just buying the server yourself. So even have a server rental program for people to get this access, because it was too expensive for my students. And I've got a lot of incredibly students spread throughout Africa and spread throughout India and spread throughout Pakistan and other really wonderful parts of the world with really great people. So I have a server rental program too that we could talk about. But do this. Then maybe volunteer somewhere, do an internship. That's how you get experience. My students get it because they all do internships for our organization and they build all these things. So that's how they get it. But if not, start doing some volunteer projects. Small businesses first, medium businesses. Build that network and that data center knowledge. Build that business acumen. Get really good at communicating, presenting, selling. Build it all. And then get hired. So that's the way I would do it, Arthur Love. I hope I answered your question. But if you've got more, I'd love to come back and give you some more details, especially if you tell me your background and the things you like. Nacho Max, in real life, how do we auto scale from a physical server to AWS? Well, Nacho Max, you generally don't auto scale when you're migrating a server. Here's what you do. You evaluate. What are you moving? Let's say I have a 128 core server sitting in my data center with 4 terabytes of DRAM, and it's operating at 50%. Guess what? That server's healthy. If I go to the cloud, I could potentially use 2 smaller sizes if I chose to with a load balancer. Or if I've got a server that's perfectly operating at 50%, which is really healthy, I could go to the cloud, get a server that's similar capacity. So at 50%, that's kind of a nice, healthy place for a server. Even the data center, I'm using a 128 core server with 4 terabytes of DRAM. All I do is I go to the cloud, and their cloud's just a store. There's nothing fancy about it. When an architect designs a building, They buy steel. They hire a construction crew, and this construction crew can go to any store they want and buy the steel. It doesn't matter as long as it's a certain strength. So here's what my recommendation is. Very simply, match whatever you have in the data center to whatever you have in the cloud. So if I have a 120 core server with 4 terabytes of DRAM in the data center, I go to the store. A cloud provider is nothing more than a store. I go to AWS and I look at the chart. 120 cores, 4 terabytes of DRAM. That's an X1E.32 XLG. Let me go to the Azure store. They don't call it EC2. They call it a VM, which is exactly what it is. So, a virtual machine. M128S. I could do this with Google Compute Engine. I could do this with any provider. It doesn't matter. So here's what you do. You take it in the same size it is, assuming it's working perfectly. Now, let's say my server was 128 cores, 4 terabytes of DRAM, and it was operating at 90% on bare metal. When we add the overhead tax of a hypervisor, which is about 10%, you take that server at the same capacity, move it to the data center, it's now 100%. So we're going to need a bigger system. Or we can use that with an auto-scaling policy to scale out as needed. So what you do is you match your capacity to what you think it is, baseline to being perfect. And then you add auto-scaling. So let's take a different example. Let's say I've got these 128 core servers with 4 terabytes of DRAM and they're operating at 25%. Now, we're wasting money. I would take that to the cloud, and then I would say, what is half of that? After I figure out a service is half that, I'd add auto-scaling so it could scale out based on needs. That's how you use the cloud. So basically, it's mapping what you have in the data center to the cloud. If what you have in the data center is identical and optimal, just move it as is. That's it, the whole thing. Just move it as is. If it's too big, reduce the size and add auto-scaling. If it's too small when you get to the cloud, add more instances or a bigger instance. That's it. Very simple. Nacho Mass, I hope I answered your question there. And if you've got more, I'm happy to do it in more depth. John Matthew, 15 years experience in mainframe. Wonderful. Credit cards now going for associate as the client is going to migrate. Any special advice? Yeah, actually, here's the thing. I actually have friends that do this all the time. I remember working with mainframes when their traffic was non-routable. It was something called SNA that IBM developed. And we were trying to push this over an IP network with data link switching plus. So here's the thing. Mainframes are everywhere. Now, you wouldn't think they would be, but they'd be everywhere. So here's the thing. Make sure you understand the cloud. Same concept. Network in the data center. And learn which ways you can migrate this stuff to the cloud. Make sure you're dealing with POSIX compatible storage, all those kinds of things. Not that different than you would think it would be to migrate anything else. It's pretty much the same. But, IBM's got all these weird things sometimes related to their operating systems and things. So make sure you're aware of those. That's the biggest extras I can give you, John. I haven't done a mainframe migration in a long time. But I'd say the associate's a good place to start. Beyond that, you're going to need the professional because that's kind of like, I view the professional as intro-level knowledge to the cloud. So, you've got that. And just be really good at the network and the data center, and you should be good. I think that'll help you, John. So get the professional. Make sure you know the network and the data center. Critical. But as far as the mainframe stuff, that's not that much different than anything else. You'll be good to go. Hope I answered your question there. So, Andrew, is there any future to continue to work on the Oracle Cloud? Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter which cloud you're on. They're all the same. I could invite you to my home. I could take my 32-core Threadripper toy. And on this, we can install the Nutanix cloud. Then we could wipe it off to do the OpenStack Ansible cloud. And guess what? They're going to look and feel nearly identical to the Oracle Cloud because they're almost the same. I don't care where you work. It's irrelevant to me. AWS cloud, Azure cloud, Oracle's a great place to work. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic place to be. It's a great cloud, great people, great company. You'll be in a really, really wonderful place. So keep working on the Oracle Cloud. Just make sure you know the cloud, know the network, know the data center. Focus on all those presentation communication skills, and it doesn't matter. Look, I worked at a competitor to Cisco for about 2 years. You know what? Cisco wanted me terribly. And when I was at Cisco, all their competitors wanted me. If you work on Oracle, you're actually more attractive to AWS and Azure and GCP than other people because you're at a competitor. If you're good at what you do, organizations love to steal their competitors for two reasons. One, they get a perfectly trained person. Two, by taking good people away from the competitor, they hurt the competitors. So keep working on the Oracle Cloud. It's a great place to be. Don't worry about which cloud, what cloud. Just know the cloud and you'll be excellent, excellent. So I hope I answered your question, Anaj. You're in a great place. Stay where you're at. Bandika. Okay, I'm going to give you a truly honest answer. And I wish I didn't have to answer it this way. It is not reasonable to get a job with the just CCP. It's not even reasonable to get a job with a certified solution architect associate. And quite frankly, without architect training, it's almost impossible to get a job with just a certified solution architect professional. So almost impossible. I tell my students that that is 10% of what's necessary to be hired. I've interviewed now 1,000 people who've had AWS certifications, 1,000 of them. And many were the certified solution architect professional. The majority of them had come from those bad advice people that had told them to take the SysOps, the DevOps, and all these, and they have 4 associate exams. I've interviewed 1,000. I couldn't hire a single one. Not a single one. So here's the problem. When you look at the certification is the name of a service and how to configure it. That's it. It doesn't teach you how to address the customer. It doesn't teach you how to solve a customer's problem. It doesn't teach you anything about design. It doesn't teach you about the communication skills, the design skills, how do you document an architecture. It teaches none of that. The name of that service and how to configure it. So realistically speaking, I want you to really think about this from another career. I practice medicine. If you didn't teach me how to communicate with patients, how to do an exam on a patient, and how to make a diagnosis, and just taught me pills, could I do the job? No. So imagine you gave a doctor, here's the red pill, here's the yellow pill, here's the blue pill, here's the dosages. Go have fun. Now, that's what these certifications are. Hey, guess what? Here's an S3 bucket, go configure it. But they don't tell you what it means. What are you doing with the metadata in the object storage? How do you utilize that metadata in the object storage? Why can't you use object storage for things that change frequently? What's the problem with object storage? What is it good for? None of that's covered, even at the professional level. So it's not reasonable to get it with just the associate. It's not even reasonable to get it with just the professional unless you have knowledge of the network and the data center. So I tell my students that I work with no background. It takes me 500 hours of training to get them there with no background. And I get them there all the time. I need to get them CCNA, not certified typically speaking, and then some more. I need to get them past the certified solution architect professional, and I need them to pick a specialty. And in that specialty, I need them to either get a higher skill in networking or a higher skill in security. I got to make them look incredible. Then I got to actually make them learn the cloud. And then after that, then I got to teach them how to present the cloud and interact with clients and ask questions. Whether it's in engineering or not, you're going to have to get deep knowledge to do the job, and none of that's covered in the certification. So Bandika, I am really sorry to say this, but I'm being honest with you. I always give people honesty, so I hope I answered that. Now, if you want to ask me some more questions or point me to a job that you actually desire, I'll give you the shortest path to get there, and I'd be thrilled to do it. But just realize the certifications may get you an interview, but that's all they do. They don't get you hired. So you've got to be good enough. The certifications will get you to the hiring manager, assuming you have the right path, like how to bypass HR, which we teach our students how to do it. So they can get you to the hiring manager, but once you're there, it's up to your knowledge, your capabilities, your communication skills, or your verbal skills, and all those wonderful things to get the job. So I hope I answered your question there. But please feel free to ask subsequent questions. Mr. Mack, oh, it's so happy to hear from you. Thanks so much. Joey Venero, you're a cloud engineer looking to become a cloud architect, but your current experience as per job descriptions is not enough. Guess what? None of it matters. I'm going to tell you this. I work with cloud engineers all the time. I don't care what's on a job description. It's meaningless to me. And here's why. 90% of the job descriptions are cut and paste job descriptions. 90+% of them. Most of them come from HR, and they're designed for the following reasons. On a low performance company like the cable company, they get 3,000 applicants for a single job. 3,000 applicants for a single position. On a good company, they get 5,000 applicants for a single position. 5,000. And what employers do or HR departments do is as follows. They don't want to get 5,000 resumes or 15 or 20,000, so they try and water it down. So they want this skill and this skill and this skill and this skill and that skill and 14 years of experience, 20 Olympic gold medals. And guess what happens? HR sends these people. They pick the people that have the most experience in the widest variety of areas. They send them to the hiring manager like me. I interview these people and because they're a jack of all trades and a master of none. I can't hire them for anything, literally nothing. So here's what happens. I am so angry as the hiring manager that I say, HR, I had enough of you. I call my favorite tech recruiter. And after I speak to my favorite tech recruiter, I say, I need a person with this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill. My tech recruiter calls me back a day later. I've got somebody for you. I've got this guy, Joey. He comes from the network background, and he's been working as a cloud engineer for a couple of years. He communicates well. He's got a lot of executive presence. He can do ROI modeling. And guess what? He knows system design. Now I'm excited, Joey. Now I go interview you. And guess what? If you do well, I hire you. So the problem going from engineering to architecture is not lack of experience, almost never. The problem is getting out of engineering thinking and thinking like an architect. And here's the issue. I work with this and I solve this problem all the time. It's such a problem that sometimes it's easier for me to take someone that was a nurse or a social worker and turn them into an architect than someone's got a lot of engineering background. But I can teach you how to get there. Here's what you're going to do. Stop thinking like an engineer. Here's what I mean. Engineers want to build. As an architect, you need to design it. So when the engineer is worried about how to set up an S3 bucket, an architect's saying, what kind of storage do I need? And why? How do I build this end-to-end design? And you design it. We don't code. We don't configure. We design. We present. We sell. So the hardest part of going from an engineer is to change your mindset. Don't talk about the specifics. The architecture includes, I need a petabyte of object storage. That's the architecture. I need 1,000 VMs with 128 cores. I need 15,000 containers. That's architecture. Now, we document it, we design it, we present it, and then we show the customer how it helps. The hardest part going from engineering to architecture is the communication piece. And so the communication piece, that's the big keys. The business acumen, the being able to do an ROI. So don't worry about these job descriptions. I got to tell you this. These job descriptions are so stupid and so crazy that one of the best organizations in the world for these kind of things, Gartner, actually started asking CIOs. They're like, wait a second, we see these stupid job descriptions for cloud architects. We know it's not right. What do you want? So I've been an architect for 25 years. I have my students apply when there's 50% of the things they can do in the job description, only 50%. Why? Because you can't be an expert on everything. I've applied for jobs that wanted 20 years experience when it was my first job. I'm not joking. They wanted 10 years experience to be a network engineer and 15 years experience as a senior engineer when I was younger. I got my first job as a senior network engineer with no experience. Why? I know exactly what to do. So there is no cloud native web apps for the most part, Joey. There's a little bit of it. 90% is lift and shift. 10% is cloud native. 90% is lift and shift. So if your whole portfolio is on cloud native, guess what? It's not going to work. So design stuff. Build a cloud, Joey. Join Toastmasters. When Gartner asked CIOs, what do you want in a cloud architect? Because we saw 18 million job descriptions that were stupid and unrelated to cloud architecture. Here's what they said. And I'm not going to publish the results so you can see it. And I'll read them to you as well, so you don't think I'm making it up. I've been an architect now for 20 plus years. Here's what they said, and here's what the CIOs were asked. So CIOs, basically, so you got the CEO that runs the organization with the strategy. The CIO basically helps the CEO run his organization using IT to fix the strategy, who hires the VP of IT, the director of IT, and the hiring manager. So here's what the people with the money want you to actually do in your job. They say, according to Gartner, and this was published in CIO magazine, and I listed it for you, we cloud architects do the following. We lead the cultural change for cloud adoption. Leadership, we develop and coordinate an architecture. Tech, design, we develop a strategy and coordinate the adoption process. Design, tech. Next, we find talent with necessary skills. Leadership, it says applications, hardware, and software. Tech, create a cloud record team. Leadership, establish best practices for use of the cloud across the company. Leadership and tech mixed. Selecting cloud providers and vetting third-party risks. combination tech leadership. Oversee governance, mitigate risk, leadership. Work closely with the IT people, the IT security people to monitor privacy and develop incident response procedures. Leadership combined with tech. Manage budgets and estimate costs. Leadership, operate at scale. Leadership. Note, you didn't hear anything related. SysOps, DevOps, configuration, setting up cloud native apps. We architects design, we don't build. So Joey, the problem is when people are studying to be a cloud architect and they're learning all these engineer things, they finally get a cloud architect interview and you can't hire them because they don't know any architecture, they only know engineering. So Joey, I want you to learn architecture. I want you to focus on design, presentation, all of it, and you'll be in great shape. Hope I answered your question. Okay, Nacho Max, I'm going to answer this very concretely for you. We do a role play, do a practice interview, or a 1-hour career planning session with me. It's $350 for the hour. And my availability to do these things is so limited because people are constantly in demand of my services. I am much happier having set up someone with an $800 course that gives them everything needed to get hired from point A to point B. Look, it's much easier for me to try and find 3 hours of my time and spend 3 hours with someone. And it's more expensive than my cost. I could do that. But I'm not interested in making money. I'm interested in helping you guys get to your goals. So my $800 class includes all of this at one price. Everything from labs to the leadership to the knowledge to the tech. So I'd love to do these things with you. I'm happy to. And Chris from my team can help people schedule this. But here's the thing. I'd rather not charge $350 for an hour. I'd rather you take a course for $800 because guess what? For you, if you don't have any experience in tech, it's going to be 500 hours of all this and live training and live lessons and chances to do all of this. And if you're one of my students, we have special arrangements and special super low, like 66% discounted prices for my students need these because we prioritize our students. So my recommendation is this. Take the class. If you'd love to do an interview with us, we'd happily do it. I'm hard to find. It may take me a week to get it scheduled because I'm super busy with the requests of my students because my students always come first. So love to do it if he has the desire, but I'd rather see you take a course. I'd rather not take a lot of money for a small period of time. I'd rather take a medium amount of money for an extensive program where you get hired, have a salary that you can really support your family, give money back home, whatever you need to, change your life forever for a low cost. So that's my preferred, is to basically do training. I'm happy to do a role play session. I do it all the time. But if I can get you involved in a course that's going to change your life for the similar money, I prefer to do it. So Nacho Max, I hope I answered your question, but I'm happy to do these. And you can purchase them on my site. Chris from my team, a link to our how to schedule a private interview session with me or a role play feedback session. Happy to do that. So Chris, you can pop that down as well. Nacho Max, I hope I answered your question. I'm not trying to distract you from this. I'm just trying to find the best way to give you the most that we can for the lowest cost possible for you. Virtual circuit, it's always great to see you again. When I hear the term virtual circuit, it reminds me of when I was younger with the permanent virtual circuits with frame relay and then ATM. So love that name. Thalka, thank you so much. It's nice having you here as well. I'm super happy to have you. Thalka, how long is my course? What a great question, Thalka. So it depends on your background. So I like to say that for people that have a tech background, it's 16 weeks working approximately 20 hours a week. To get through it, it's about 250 hours of training. Now, I'm also going to say this. If, by comparison, you have no background, and I'm going to say it's going to take you 6 to 8 months, and it's going to be approximately 500 hours of training, the price doesn't change. It's just that it's going to take longer. All we care is that you guys get hired in the end. If it takes us 4 months, if it takes us 6 months or 8 months, we don't care. We just want you to be hired. So 4 months at about 20 hours a week if you've got a tech background, 8 months at approximately 20 plus hours a week if you have no tech background, but we can get you there. Hope I answered your question, Falca. Please feel free to ask more. Cloud Learner, great question. What career are you referring to? Because that will determine the tools that you need. So before I can answer that, are you talking about being an architect or an engineer? or a DevOps engineer, because that's going to change everything. Some form of architect. Okay, here's the thing. As an architect, we don't really use a lot of tools. We're designers. So if you were DevOps, I'd say Terraform. But as architects, here's our tools: our communication skills, presentation skills, our writing skills, our OR modeling, our executive presence, gravitas, that kind of thing. Our skills are end-to-end system design. So the only tools we use are Word, PowerPoint. You might actually create a diagram and something like Lucidchart. These are our tools for the architects. Engineers have tools for discovery and configuration, all these things. We are architects, we're systems designers. That's the thing that people don't understand, because the certification providers have made architecture look like a tech job. Architecture is a leadership job. We design stuff, we present it, we sell it. Engineers build it. So engineers use tools. Our tools are sales. Our tools are communication. Our tools are the technical knowledge for the design. Our tools are the leadership to build a team of the 20 people that are going to build the thing that we design. Our tools are documentation, skills, entertaining clients, plus the technical knowledge to be able to design it. These are the tools for the architect. Engineers have various tools. That's why I asked where your career was. Great questions, by the way. Vandika, I don't know what you mean by a client solutions onboarding role. If you're saying cloud solutions architect, that's going to be the same situation. So if you can tell me what you mean by onboarding role, for example, if you're like 18 years old or 22 years old and you just graduated college, there are some programs that are very hard to get, like extremely hard to get, where they take in like 30 to 50 people each year, and they basically pay to train you. So that's possible, but I'm going to tell you, it'd be far easier to train you to be a cloud architect and get you cloud architect hard and to get one of those roles. But I don't know what you mean by client solutions onboarding role. So being in finance and working with general counsel and negotiating communication is a very good skill set for the architects. If you give me more, I'll be able to help you. But I just need to know what you mean. Okay, been a software architect for 2 years, and you're thinking of a career as a cloud architect. What would be the challenges to overcome, as well as the best strategy? Well, okay, Alfredo, the good news is you're working in tech, so that makes it a lot easier. I've taken people that don't even know how to turn on a computer and install an operating system and gotten them into great tech jobs. So you're already there. Now, here's the thing with software. If you're a software architect and you're not configuring and not coding the software, but you're truly designing the software as a true architect, then this is much more similar. If you're a software architect that's also building it, that's one of these, what I call, not real architecture roles, they're more engineering roles with an architecture title. So you need to know more about that. But here's the thing. Software is software. The cloud is a virtual network and a data center. So most of what you do as a cloud architect is lift and shift from the network and the data center. So first thing you need to do, Alfredo, is learn the network and the data center. The software is maybe 5% of what you're going to do. The rest of it is network and data center. What is the cloud? A network and a data center that's been virtualized. That's it. What do you need to know as a cloud architect? The network and the data center, because that's the job. So learn the network and the data center. Now, if as a software architect, you've been meeting with CEOs and helping them with these several $100 million software design projects or $50 million software design projects and selling them and building a team of engineers to help design the code for you, you're really in a good position. So at that point, you'd only need to learn the network and the data center. Now, if you're not doing that as a software architect and you're not presenting to large groups of people, you're not doing ROI modeling, you're not writing up documents and convincing people they need the tech, you're not leading teams of people, then you will need to learn those skills as well. So I'd like to say, software is great, but the cloud is a network and a data center that's virtualized. So you need to know the network and the data center above all, and you'll be in great shape. To learn that, you need those business acumen skills, those executive presence skills, those communication skills, emotional intelligence skills, sales skills, RO modeling. If you've got that, and you learn the networking in the data center, you're going to be great, especially design. But it's end-to-end design, not configuration. Alfredo, if you give me more information about your career, I'm happy to give you more. But from what you've given me, that's the best information I can give you. Now, if you tell me exactly what kind of architect you've done, I can give you a lot more, and I'd be happy to do so. Raghav, great question. So, and then I think we actually forgot to answer virtual circuits next question. So but let's do this one first. So I'm a student and you have a job interview for a cloud intern. Great. You were looking for some tips for a bit technical and to say or mention in interview. So I'm not completely sure I understand the question. If you're on an interview, I have about 10 videos that I created on how to answer technical solutions on an interview. So I recommend you watching them. Chris from my team can list some of these things in the chat box so everybody can see them. So that will definitely be a big help for you. So let's look at this from a different way. So that'll give you, how to answer these questions. So let's give you the answers. So first and foremost, when you go to that interview, you look that person straight in the eye. Wear a business suit for the interview. I don't care what the job is. I don't care if it's remote. Wear a suit. Express energy, enthusiasm, and passion, and love for the tech. Do not lie on an interview. And when someone asks you a question that you don't know, don't bluff. It ends the interview right there. Just be honest and say, not had the opportunity to work with that technology yet or learn it, but I'm highly motivated, highly energetic, highly enthusiastic, and I love this tech. I just need to be honest with you. Now, if this was part of my job, I would learn it as fast as possible because I want to do anything possible to be great at what I do. That will work. Just don't lie. 99% of all interviews end in a lie. So I've got 20 videos. Chris from my team will give you the interview playlist. He just popped it in the link. 2, be yourself. Don't try to be what they think you need. Be honest and ethical. So here's what employers want. Someone that can do the job, technically competent. Someone they can trust. Where 99% of interviews all die, someone lies or bluffs in the interview, we're polite, we send them home, then we tell them, sorry, you don't have any experience. Or we give them some other excuse to get rid of them because we can't deal with people that lie. Then we need someone that we can trust, meaning someone that knows what they know and someone that doesn't know, knows what they know and knows what they don't know so they don't make mistakes. Then we look for energy, enthusiasm, passion. We look for people that come in, hi everybody, how are you? Somebody that raises the energy in the room. We look for people that have an unbelievable work ethic that will work until the job's done to make sure that we're successful, and we look for team players. Communicate that, you'll be in good shape. I hope I answered your question, Raghav. So Sharath, here's what I would say. If you completed the associate, go straight to the professional. Do not stop, do not pass go, continue the momentum while it's fresh in your mind. Now, you're also going to need some other thing. Even if you just do the tech, even only the tech is not enough for architecture jobs. It's not enough. For engineering jobs, yes. For architecture, no. So what exactly career do you desire? Because which cloud jobs do you desire? Sharath, and then I can give you an example and I'll help you with your plan. But right now, I don't know the jobs, and I can build you a plan for architecture. I can build you a plan for engineering. I can build you a plan for DevOps, and they're all different. And if you study for architecture and want to do engineering, you won't be hired. And if you study for engineering and want to do architecture, you won't be hired. So tell me exactly what your goal career is, and then I can give you an answer. So I'm just waiting to hear that. I don't want to send you on a wild goose chase. Virtual circuit, quick compare. If I were to compare AWS networking to the Cisco Acquire, what would I put it as? I would use the AWS Advanced Networking as an intro to an intro to an intro to an intro level CCNA. That basic it is. So I view the AWS Advanced Networking as intro to junior level networking. I view the CCNA as intro to junior level networking. I use the CCNP as basically what's good enough and necessary for the average network engineer, perfect for a cloud network engineer. I view the CCIE, which I attained back when it was a 2-day test a long time ago. My number is 7417. I view that as, That's where you get network engineers that really start to know what they're doing. So I would say the AWS Advanced Networking is super, 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 super basic. And I would say it's sub CCNA level. I would say for someone that wants to be an architect on the cloud, you need a lot more. Basically, here's the reason. CCNA covers no network design, none. It's all about how to configure it. CCNA does not teach BGP. CCNA does not teach traffic engineering. All what you need to know. And it's not covered in the advanced networking either. So maybe SDN in the coming future. So this is my perspective. So get a CCNP if you're serious about networking. And like if you're really being a cloud network architect, CCNP is minimum level. Now, I'm going to tell you this. My buddy Imran and I, who have 3 CCIEs between us and 50 years of networking experience between us, are releasing a cloud network architect program coming soon. It's going to be a massive project, and it's going to give you near CCIE, Cisco Certified Internet Network level knowledge, along with heavy VPC knowledge and heavy cloud knowledge. It's going to be something serious. It's going to include all the presentation skills, emotional intelligence, executive training, and that is coming really soon. Most of it's already developed, just a few weeks, and then it's going to be videoed and we'll release it. So probably 2-3 months, and we're going to have this. So we're going to have that for network architects. So AWS Advanced Networking, super, 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 super basic. Look at it this way. 200-page book for this. My CCIE was 75,000 pages of reading. CCNA book is about 2,000 pages to do both sides. AWS Advanced Networking is about 200 pages. CCNP is about 3,000 pages. Advanced Networking is about 200-300. So put into context if you buy their SubX book, which is a relatively good book. MMAC. I would never do sysops unless I wanted to be a sysops professional. So if you want to do sysops, MMAC, do sysops. But I think the worst advice I've ever seen, and it's been given by the Australian course providers, is, hey, guess what? You want to get hired? Do the cloud practitioner, the certified solutions architect associate, the sysops associate, and the DevOps associate. And guess what? You're done when you're done that. You've got 4 different certifications, which make you completely unhireable. None. Nobody's going to hire you with this. It's not my world to basically say this, but I'm going to be honest. We hiring managers look at associate certifications as almost intro to junior level practice, like almost enough to get ready to start working, but not completely. If someone does 4 associate certifications, it's like they went to kindergarten 4 times. So they did 4 times intro to junior level practice. But I need someone that's ready to work. And none of these associate certifications do that. So my recommendation is skip all of them. Now, if you want to be sysops, study sysops and do it. And if you want to do sysops, I do the certified solution architect associate, then the professional, and then the sysops. But don't do sysops unless you want it. Here's what happens if you, because MAC, if you're who I think you are in England, I know you want to be a cloud architect. I could be wrong. You might not be Maurithi, so I'm not sure, but I think you are. So here's what's going to happen. If you do this, associate and professional, you got something. If you have all, and you wanted to be an architect, you look like an architect. Combine that with a network thing or a data center, and you look like an architect. Now, you do the sysops, you do the DevOps, you do all these other silly associates that are not in your related career. Now you go apply for a job and you look like a jack of all trades and a master of none. So me, the hiring manager, says this person has no concept what they want to be. I want someone that loves what they do, Maurithi. I want someone that loves what they do as a hiring manager. I want someone that's passionate about it. I don't want someone that threw a bunch of darts in the air and they landed wherever they want. I want someone that's going to put all their passion, all their love, all their motivation in one thing. So here's what happens when I see a resume with sysops this and this and this. When somebody applies for an architect, I say, jack of all trades, master of none, trash pile. Not only does it go in the trash pile, but in the event I do hire someone, I'm going to pay them a lot less because now they don't have an architect resume. They have a sysops resume, which basically pays half of what architects do over the long term, maybe even a third of what architects do. I can't hire someone that looks like they don't want to be what I need. So Maurithi, I know you, and I know how smart you are, and I know how focused you are. Do that professional instantly. Unless you don't want to be an architect, but I think you're Maurithi, and I think you are. Go straight to the professional. Skip all the associate certifications. Because these cloud providers have these certifications, and because there's 1,000,001 courses on Udemy, literally 1,000,001 on Udemy, and 1,000,001 by these other course providers, and basically speaking, they're not even an intro to an intro to an intro to an intro of actually doing the job. It's the name of the service and how to configure it. Your key is to get those certifications, the professional ones, and get out of there. out of there, Marithi. Go straight to the big ones. And then when you're done this, knock it out. The next big one that's from the industry, maybe a networking one, maybe a security one. You combine that with your personality, and I know, Marithi, we've spoken in some way, shape, or form. You combine that with all that heart and soul and all that hard work that you can do, and I see some incredible things for you, Marithi. I really do. Good to see you. Okay, Niraj, good question. You're an Informatica ETL developer with 3.5 years experience. Marithi, we love you. What a classy guy you are, by the way. So you're an Informatica ETL developer with 3.5 years experience. You want to explore the roles of data engineer and architect. Good job. Excellent. So they're two very different roles. Niraj, do you want to be a data engineer or do you want to be a data architect? If you can let me know, because the career development plan is going to be like this. So if I give you the ones for the data engineer, you won't be an architect. If I give you the things for an architect, you won't be able to be a data engineer. So Niraj, if you can let me know, I will love to give you an example, help you get there. I just need to know which one of the two. Data engineer. Okay. So let me go back to you, Niraj, because you answered the data engineer quickly enough. So Chris, if we pop up Niraj's, he says he wants to be a data engineer. So you have this ETL background. I absolutely love this. I hope you also have some database background. So if you have database knowledge and background, awesome. If not, I would get something, for example, from, say, Oracle, like an Oracle professional level database certification. That's going to look good. So now you've got some database things. Then I would make sure I have real knowledge on object storage. And I don't mean object storage as S3. I mean object storage, the metadata, the architecture of object storage, its use cases, all of it. Then I would make sure I have good knowledge, really strong knowledge on NoSQL databases, because that's really important. So database skills, absolutely. Get really good at, building out NoSQL databases, whether you're dealing with MongoDB, whether you're dealing with Apache Cassandra, get really, really, really good at that. Next, get good with data warehousing applications. Get good with Python scripting, because there's going to be some of this. Make sure you understand all this. Now make sure you understand machine learning as well. Because when you start doing these data engineer things, it's a combination between what a data scientist would do, but not exactly, but partially, and some of these other big data database people. So I would learn machine learning and I would get real good at it. I would learn those machine learning libraries, PyTorch, TensorFlow. There's a lot of other ones. I am not a data scientist. Chris from my team is, but there's some of those things. I would then get used to the visualization tools. These are the skills to be there, but you got to be able to build it as the data engineer. Work with these databases, work with those ETL tools, write your Python scripts for machine learning, deal with the TensorFlow, PyTorch, and all of these kinds of things. And then learn all the tools like Tableau and QuickSight and all those visualization tools and be good at using them, and you should be in great shape. That's what I would do, Niraj Kumar. That's the skill set. KKR Katha. How to get a cloud solution architect job with no experience? No big deal. I do it all the time. My students do it all the time. I have a program called the Cloud Architect Career Development Program where we get people to do this every day of the week. Now, it's based on me. I went from practicing medicine. My first job was a senior network engineer. First job. I didn't have to take a fresher job. So it can be done. Now, KKR Katha. Here is the thing. When you want to go take a senior role and you don't have experience, first, we really want to look at your past career. Is there anything in your past career, KKR Katha, and let me know in the chat box, that we can leverage to show that you did it? For example, I used to practice medicine. I'm giving you some time to type it in. Here's the job of a doctor or nurse practitioner or physician assistant. Patient comes in. How are you today, sir? My throat's bothering me, is what the patient says. And I say, okay. What makes your throat better? What makes it worse? Then I stick a tongue depressor in there and we'll flash and look at their throat. And I say, wow, it's red. What's the most likely cause of a bacterial infection of the throat? Beta hemolytic strep group B, amoxicillin 500 milligrams 4 times a day. We'll fix it. That's what we do. So that's medicine. Here's the job of the architect, for example. Hi, client. How are you today? What's going on with your business? Could you tell me what your business goals are, what your pain points are, what your competitors are doing? Okay, very much. Now, what do your tech systems look like? What's working for you? What's not working for you? What are your competitors doing? Okay, great. Now, what can we do with the knowledge I have of the tech that you have to build something that's going to change your business based upon solving your business problem? Then you design it. Then you convince the customer they need it. That's the job of the architect. No, medicine, meet with the client. Architecture, meet with the client. Medicine, ask some questions. Architecture, ask some questions. Medicine, do an evaluation. Architecture, do an evaluation. Medicine, prescribe a medication. Architecture, design it and sell the customer. Same job. So, KK Arcata, do you have any other experience that we can relate, that we can show you is the same as your architect job? That's what I did on my first tech job. I showed them that my medical job and my network engineering job were the same, and they loved it. So, what is your current job? 2, learn the network in the data center and be great at it. Be great at it. I mean, not just a little good, I mean great at it, like the best in the world. Be great at it. After that, what else do we have to do? After we get you good at the network in the data center, we got to make sure that you can communicate in the way that it's expected for architects, that you can do an ROI model to show the customer that the cost of the solution is more than mitigated by the value received by the customer. We've got to teach you how to communicate to the CEO, because guess what? The CEO thinks differently than the CFO, who thinks differently than the COO, who thinks differently than the CIO. You've got to be able to communicate to all of them. And it's like speaking 4 different languages. Then you've got to be able to translate business requirements to technology solutions and be able to design them. So there's that. Where do you get this knowledge? Well, ROI modeling, we teach it in our program, or you can go to an MBA program or something like that, or you can learn how to do it. Executive communication skills, we teach it to our students. If you're not with us, go find some. Speakeasy in California does a very nice intro to communication skills, about $2,500 for the week, or 3 days. It's well worth it. I mean, it's included in our program, which costs a third of that, but get it either way. I don't care, but you need these skills to get a cloud architect job and you have no experience. Then you need to train executive presence. So that's going to cost you a couple $1,000 if you're not with us. With us, it's included, but you need it because you got to be able to walk in the room. Here's what happens if the engineer's walking like this. This is what people expect out of engineers. They expect someone on their computer, blah, 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 blah. They're not, but this is what people expect. They don't want you to walk in and say, I'm here to help you. Customer, hey, could you explain what's going on to your business to me? Okay, I understand you've grown 11% month over month because you're a new startup, and that's exceptional. You're outpacing your competitors by 300%. Okay, Mr. Customer, I understand that your biggest challenge is getting in contact with your customers. Okay, Mr. Customer, I've also noticed that you told me that you've got a problem related to this kind of communication and collaboration between these two teams. Mr. Customer, any other problems you'd like me to solve? Okay, Mr. Customer, let me take this information back to my team and I'll come back and meet with you in 2 weeks with a design that's going to help solve your problems. I go back, I go to my team, we design this, completely design it. I go back, I now have to present it to the customer. I have to sell it to the customer and convince them they need it. That's the job of the architect. So these are all the non-technical skills. So learn the network, learn the data center in depth, because that is the cloud. Then learn firewalls, learn IDS IPS systems, learn AAA authentication or IAM, whatever you want to call it. Then learn the cloud, build a bunch of different clouds, build an OpenStack Ansible cloud, build a Nutanix cloud, get really good at the cloud. Then put it all down on your resume, build a bunch of things, and then optimize your resume, and then learn what the hiring manager wants, and then get hired. Now, we have a program to do that, and it's very low cost. If you're not with us, you can still do these, but make sure you get those trainings, things that I need. Because what has to happen when you are new and you have no experience, you have to do this on your interview. You have to be so good that they can't not hire you. So for those of you that are not hiring managers, I want you to know the secret. 50% of candidates' skill for tech jobs is their technical competency. But the other 50% of the candidate's skill is related to things like their emotional intelligence, their energy, their enthusiasm, their communication skills, executive presence, those kind of things. So here's the thing when you're new. We got to get you certified to get an interview. That's all certifications do, otherwise they don't do anything. But we need to get you that interview. We then need to put you in a position where you're going to be hired no matter what. So we've got to make you so likable and communicate so well and perfect your attitude that when you go in the interviewer asks you, they talk to you and they're like, who is this guy? And they just hire you. Now, I've interviewed 5 companies in my life. I've been hired by all 5. If you master the interview, you will be well. I'm going to tell you, the first job I had was with MCI WorldCom. I started there as a network engineer, and I was a lead architect on the team within, literally speaking, 6 months. I went straight from there to Wall Street, where I designed the assistive training system for the largest market maker on the NASDAQ. I had 6 months experience. They wanted 10 years experience. It didn't matter. Why didn't it matter? Because when they interviewed me, because my executive recruiter sent them to me, they offered me the job on the spot. They're like, oh my God, we need a BGP, we need this. You know that. Oh my God, yeah, when can you start? So it's less about the experience and more about competency, and making your overall package look great. Look, when it's your first tech job, I can't get anybody to 50 out of 50 on technical competency. It's not possible. I can get people to 35 out of 50 or 40 out of 50, which is really great, by the way. But I can get you to 45 or 50 out of 50 on the intangibles. And I can make you so likable that employers just say, yes, yes, yes. So that's your secret. You want to be hired for a cloud architect with no experience? Get the experience and that kind of thing. Do these labs that we're talking about. All our students do the following. The VPN in our data center. So if you're with us, it's included at half of the cost of you buying the server. But if you're not with us, buy yourself a 16-core server with 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives in RAID 0 or an NVMe drive. And on this server, set up server virtualization, because that's the basis of all cloud computing. Every virtual machine or EC2 instance is just a virtualized server. 2, build some containers, some Docker containers. 3, build the firewall, an IP tables firewall. 4, build an open access SSH VPN concentrator. 5, build the LAMP stack, the hard way on real computers, meaning starting from scratch, not the easy way that you can do in the cloud in 3 minutes. Then when you're done that, build a Microsoft Active Directory server to learn IAM, and I mean know it for real. You can't just know that AD connector connects you to it. You need to know what is an AD server and how it all works, because you're going to be moving this stuff. Then set up Linux file sharing with NFS. Guess what? It's going to be the same systems on the cloud, whether they call it ENFS or NFS. It's the same thing. Then set up Windows file sharing, because you're going to be dealing with Windows systems. When you're done that, build a cloud and put this all down in your experience section. KKR Katha, that is the secret to getting your cloud architect job when you have no experience. I have a program which goes for my team, posted the course and a link. You can also call us, but you can do that on your own. You can do that with us. We'll be about 10% of the cost to do this on your own, because we're doing this as a service. But either case, get this job, go become a cloud architect. It's the best job in the world. Who else has questions? JYT, can I provide some insert on the AWS security cert? You're interested in cloud security. Okay, JT, if I wanted to do cloud security, I would not take the AWS Advanced Networking cert. I view, and I'm a CISP, or at least I let it expire, but I worked as a security architect. I know the exact content in the AWS Advanced Networking course, and it's Intro to Junior Level Networking. The content in the AWS Advanced Security course is, again, Intro to Junior Level Networking. Intro to Junior Level Security. Nowhere close to be hired. If you want to be a cloud security architect, get a real security certification, a CISSP, a CEH with practical, a CCSP, something that's big and holds weight in the industry. These cloud certs are so infinitesimal to building your portfolio. Here's why. All those courses on Udemy and those other course providers that teach you the name of the service and how to configure it are perfect if you want to be a junior engineer, but they're completely unrelated to these jobs. So you want to do security, get one of those 3 big security certifications I had. Because there are so many exam dumps for AWS exams, and so many courses which can teach you the class. They teach you exactly the exam, but nothing about the computing world, nothing about the cloud. I view them as not super valuable. So get that Certified Solution Architect Professional. It's the minimum level one. Get a CEH, CISSP, the CEH obviously with the practical. Get a CCSP, get something big, like an Offensive Security Professional is another one. Don't waste your time with these little certifications. Don't waste your time with these mini cloud certifications. They don't mean a lot. The Certified Solution Architect Professional does for architects. The DevOps Professional is very helpful for the DevOps engineering people. But these other ones are pretty basic, so don't get 10x certified in AWS. Get the professional and go straight to a big industry cert, and you'll get hired so easily. JYT. If you've got more questions, I'd love to answer them. I'm reminded by my team, because I'm not exactly Mr. YouTube, that I should ask, if you're enjoying this content, please leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to be informed of new things, and or share this and tell others. So thanks so much. Now I'm done being Mr. YouTube for 5 minutes, and I can go back to being me, which is a cloud career coach, or a career coach in general. Sheshkath, as a cloud architect, should you be good at programming like Python? Absolutely not. Okay, I want to say this again. Cloud architects are systems designers. You may not have been here when I said it. We design systems end to end. We present them to the customers, we sell them to the customers, we build a team to do this. We do not configure, we do not code. Python is a completely irrelevant skill for an architect. Software development is a completely irrelevant skill for the architect. We don't do any of that. We are systems designers. Here's the thing. We design it, then we hand it over to cloud engineer to build it. They need to know some Python. We hand it over sysops people to maintain it. They need to know a lot of Python and bash and shell scripting, all those kind of things. And then there's DevOps people that do it. If you're on the DevOps side, you need to code. If you're on the sysops side, you need to code. If you're on the engineering side, you need to code. As an architect, you will probably never, in your 25-year career, touch the management console, CLI, or do anything other than design. I'm going to literally tell you, when I started my engineering career, I was on the routers all day long. I became an architect, and I hadn't touched the router since. Architects don't touch stuff. They design stuff. Here was my engineering job. Configure all day. Here was my architecture job. Go talk to the client, ask their business, legal, technical, regulatory requirements, figure out the pain points, and design a solution. And that's it. Design it, write it up, present it, and move on to the next project when you hand it over to the team to build it. So as an architect, you will not be coding. You will not be programming. You will not be using the CLI. You will not be using the management console. You still need to know how to do the management console, but you will never be doing it. And that's why when people ask me engineering or architecture, it's the exact opposite as an engineer. So be an architect. Just remember, architects just design. An architect that designs the building doesn't build it. The architect says the building's going to be 1,000 meters tall, which means it's going to weigh 3 billion pounds, which means or kilos, which means which means the density of the ground needs to be this deep. It means that if the building's this tall, it's going to have wind. How much movement is going to occur with the wind? What kind of tensile strength do I need in the steel? That's what architects do. The architects don't build the building. They hire a construction crew. The architects are the same thing. We design the system, we hand it to the cloud engineers. They're our construction crew. So I hope I made that clear for you guys. Who else has a question? Love answering questions. Rohit Kumar, what's the path to become a cloud architect? So, I think I just answered that, but I'm not sure if you're here. You were here at the time. So the path is this. Learn the network in the data center. Learn all the systems. Why? Because the cloud's a virtual network in the data center. That's it. So learn routers, learn switches, learn firewalls, learn NAT, learn BGP, learn traffic engineering, learn VLANs, learn trunking protocols like .1Q trunking, learn about port aggregation protocol and link aggregation groups, learn about traffic engineering, learn about network segmentation, learn about QoS policies, learning about network security. Then when you're done that, guess what? What's next? So now learn all the data center stuff, learn servers, learn server virtualization, learn storage in depth. How it works. How it works. Then learn firewalls, learn IDS systems, learn IPS systems, learn load balancers, learn storage in depth. I mean, you need to be able to have an 8-hour conversation with someone about their storage easily. So, one of those things. You got to be able to do that. Then you got to be able to present. You got to communicate. You have to know how to sell. You need to gather information, requirements from the customer, and it's hard to get. You need to convince a team that doesn't work for you to help you build something. You need to lead a team of probably 20, 30, 40 people. I've worked on projects where there was 50 people that took 6 months just to figure out the customer requirements. I'm not joking. 50 people on site for 6 months just to even figure out what they had long before we can think about how to design it. So that's really what you need. You need that business acumen, executive presence, communication skills, leadership skills. That's the path to become an architect. So Rohit, we have the following. We have a program to do that is super, super cheap, and we'd love to work with you. And if you're not with us, you know exactly what to do. So next question is as follows. Actually, before I get to the next question, I want to do this. I want to let you know that we are absolutely so committed to helping people do their cloud computing career that, as you can tell, We spent about $20,000 last week on new photography, videography careers. We spent all weekend filming. My chief operating officer, Chris, was here in my house on the weekend. He's running cables with me. He's setting up software packages for me. Thank you, Chris. Chris, I don't know what we would do without you. So let's give a round of applause for Chris Johnson, my COO. And this week, we've got a lot of things coming. So tomorrow, we're going to be having a call with my good friend, Sandeep Das. I'm going to be talking about cloud migration concepts, and he's going to go do it. I'm an architect. He's an engineer, so he's going to go do it, just like in the real world. And then on Friday, we are going to have my good friend and one of the best global program managers I've ever met, project managers I've ever met, Andrea Ikaza, on. And she's going to talk about dealing with massive projects and whether they go to the cloud or the data center. She's going to share her 20-some years, actually, I'm going to call it 25 years experience because that'll make her happy. And she and I have worked together for decades. And she's one of the best I know. So I want her to come and talk to you. So I've got 2 great guests this week, and I'm going to be having a lot more guests. But this week, so much. And guess what's coming? For people that don't know how to get their first job, that are fresh out of college, because we deal with a lot of these students, I have a video series this week that's going to be dedicated in how to get your first job as a fresher. Then guess what? After that, you know what we're going to be doing? We're going to have 5 more videos dedicated to this thing. And then I'm going to do a 4-hour how to get your first tech job when you graduate college if you're a fresher. So I want to make sure we do everything we can to help all of you wonderful people that want to join our world. I have been a cloud architect and network architect since 2000, 2001, something like that. Every minute of it has been the best experience of my life, and it is my turn to give it to you guys, to give all the knowledge I've learned, to give all the passion I've learned, to make sure that all of you are the next generation of technology leaders. That's our mission. Chris helped me with that with more heart and love than you can imagine. I'm at it 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's what we really want to do. So that's what's coming. Smela, it's always good to hear from you, so thank you so much. Let me get to the next question. I just wanted to let you know all of what we're doing. If you like our content, please leave a like. Please forward our content if you think it's helpful to others. I just want to share as much knowledge as we can. Yaz, okay, that's a great question. What are the days and times of the live sessions in your architecture training? What a great question. So Yaz, we do the following. On Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, then we may be modifying that, but on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have a 3-hour live architecture training class. Then between our classes, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, our students do video assignments, they do homework assignments, they do labs, they submit all this for feedback, and we give them feedback via Slack. Then on Friday at 12 noon Eastern, which is 5 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. GMT while it's still daylight savings time, we have another 3-hour session, and that's typically also related to architecture. So those architecture sessions are twice per week, and our students love them. And in between classes, of course, our students do the following. They get on these calls, and they watch the videos, they do homework assignments, they build firewalls, VPN concentrators. My students build clouds. They design architectures that would require people to have 10 to 20 years experience. So when my people graduate, my either 250-hour program or 500-hour program, and that's based upon where your background is. If you're new, it's probably about 500 hours. If you've got experience in tech, it's about 250 hours. It doesn't matter. We charge the same thing. Here's the only difference. The people that are new, we want to watch all of our architectural lessons, the replays, and they can just stay in our program longer, so they get a lot more time. So we can get anybody to be a cloud architect. That's not a problem. 99% of the population that comes to us, we know we can do it with. But the key is this. Everybody's got a different time frame. Everybody's got a different learning speed. I locked myself in a room for 4 days and became a CCNA. I locked myself in a room for 2 days and passed the Google Professional Cloud Architect as the first Google cert ever. But I knew the clouds, so we all learn differently. I can't expect everybody to read 1,000 pages in a day. That's just me. But I can say this. Within 6 to 8 months, anybody with no experience can easily get a job like this, and assuming they put in the time and effort. And I can also say this. If you've been in tech, 16 weeks is about what it takes to get hired. So I hope I answered your question. Hi, like you love the avatar there. Sales Renew. Which projects should you learn AWS services better for beginners? Well, it depends on what job you want. What is the ultimate career that you desire? And that'll determine the projects that are good for you. Because doing the wrong projects won't be relevant. So If you want to be an architect, tell me that. If you want to be an engineer, tell me that, and I'll be able to help you. Sunset 345. Great question. So architects are big picture people. How do all the pieces and parts work together? Engineers are focused on the one thing and they're focused on it in depth like you can't even imagine. So architect is a person that loves to go out there, ask questions, that's inquisitive, present things, sell things. That's the job of an architect. Emotionally intelligent, someone that knows how all the things work and how they fit together. That's the architect job. Someone that's engineering is someone that likes to be behind the computer, someone that doesn't like communicating with people as much, someone that likes to get in the weeds with all the tech. The real techie, that's the engineer. Like I have a good friend, Moses. He is a techie. First, he's one of the best engineers I've ever seen. Two, when you walk into his house, his phone's changing the light bulbs. He's got wires throughout his house. He's got his dishwasher related to his phone. He's somehow found a way to connect his washer and dryer. He's got more tech running in his house. He's an engineer in every heart and one of the best he is, and he's done real well for himself. I respect my friend Moses more than anyone else you can possibly imagine. What a great engineer he is. But here's what my house looks like. I walk in the house. Now, granted, we can't use this because, right now I'm doing architecture work, so I've got a lab. So if I was not teaching cloud architects, you'd walk in my house, I'd have a watch with a second hand, ding, 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 so I could see it visually what's going on. I have a yoga studio in my house. I have a physical therapy center in my house. That's in my house. And quite frankly, I'd have a TV that I would watch for 15 minutes a night before I go in bed. And I've had $1,000,001 and access to the internet. That's why I have a house. In my house, I got a cat in there. I'm an architect. I don't need a lot of tech. I'm a business person. I'm a problem solver. So my library's got thousands and thousands and thousands of business books. I read a business book per week as a general rule, sometimes 2 or 3, though I didn't the last week because we were filming our content. That's an architect. An architect likes going places. They don't like to sit behind the computer all day. They like to present. They like to sell. That's the difference. One is a customer-facing role, and another one's a behind-the-scenes role. Architects are customer-facing. Spend lots of time with customers. We're consultants. We consult people to make their business better. Guess what? Engineers. Build. So if you like doing things with your hands, it's engineering. If you like designing things, it's architecture. So Sunset 345, I hope I answered your question. I'm happy to answer more questions. Vinod, I don't know what you mean by subject matter expert. Subject matter expert in what? Networking, cloud, security. I know it says you have some implementation of Microsoft 365, but I need to know what you mean by subject matter expertise to be able to answer that question and what it's actually in. Whatever, architects just don't code. And a lot of senior developers are calling themselves architects, but they're still not architects. So there is a confusion. That confusion is so serious. That's what prompted Gartner Group to go poll CIOs and say, what are you hiring? So I can tell you what people are hiring. I can tell you what hiring managers tell me they actually want. I can tell you what all the recruiters I actually speak to tell me what they want. I can tell you all my students that are getting cloud architect jobs what they want. I can tell you what all the cloud architects that I've known have been doing for years. And I can also tell you what all the architects have been doing for years. So big businesses that truly hire architects know what an architect is and need it. The only time I've ever seen something like this is when it's a mom and pop 2 and 3 person company and they're having jack of all trades, but they don't really do any kind of heavy architectures. It's all small stuff like a WordPress site or things like that. So I wish these things weren't so ridiculously done, but the world's coming onto it. When my students interview with AWS or Azure or GCP, they're not asking them to do these kind of things. They want an architect, a systems designer. In fact, my conversations with them was like, thank you for teaching the soft skills. Thank you for teaching the communication skills. One of the bigger tech companies wants me to come in and teach their engineers how to speak and their architects how to do RO modeling because they had people that went from engineering to architecture and they needed to learn the business skills. So that's the reality. So I worry less about job descriptions and more about what people actually hire for. I don't care about what people call themselves. I could call myself the king of my cat, Cindy. But that's what I want to call myself. Guess what? My cat, Cindy, love her to death. She's in charge of her. I'm not in charge of her. She knows what she wants. She does what she wants. My Cindy's beautiful. But, I wish we got a picture that we could put on the screen of my cat, Cindy. But my cat, Cindy, does exactly what she wants. So look at it this way. It's not what you call yourself. It's what you actually do. Okay, so here's what I have to say. Now I know what you've done, Vinod. Microsoft 365 and subject and building and implementing. Okay, so if you're building and implementing, that's 100% engineering, Vinod, which is fine. So valid. So Microsoft 355 is more of like an office type collaboration service. Very helpful in understanding how it is because, what are we doing as architects? We are improving organizations' workflow, how companies do things. So what do I mean by improving organizations' workflow? We're improving communication and collaboration between experts. So business people, along with customers, we're designing to do things to improve the customer experience. We're trying to increase the intimacy between the customers and their provider and the company. We're trying to promote products. We're trying to increase sales. And this kind of background you have is actually great. So you could be an engineer. So going to an engineer, here's what you need to do. You've got that Microsoft 365. You could basically to be an engineer, you could do the Azure expert thing. Oh, Chris from my team posted the picture of my cat, Cindy. Yesterday, it was raining outside and you could see how unhappy she was when she was trying to go outside. Pretty sad, pretty depressing. I love my cat, Cindy. She's like my little buddy. This is how upset she was with the weather yesterday. She saw it raining and she looked at me like, oh, come on, Daddy. I want to go outside and attack some lizards. She's an expert lizard hunter. But anyway, so I think that's great. Thank you so much, Chris. And that's my associate, Chris. Big round of applause for him. You have no idea all the things Chris does to help me deliver so many free things for the cloud computing community. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, this is my sweetheart, my little baby girl, Cindy. So what I'd say is, if you did the Azure and the Azure expert, especially since you've got that Microsoft 365 background, that would be kind of a nice little engineering / architecture, background in terms of certifications. So with this, you still need to learn the network. You still need to learn the data center. And if you do those two things, you'll be good for cloud engineering on the Azure cloud. And then learn the network, learn the data center, learn how things work, and you can work on any cloud. Now, if you're going to be an engineer, you're going to have to know how to do some scripting and coding because that's part of the job. So if you want to be an architect, an engineer, you're going to have to learn some Python and things along the way. You're going to have to learn some PowerShell scripting, some shell scripting with like Bash and things like that to be an engineer. Now, to be an architect, here's what I recommend. Taking those same skills, still doing that Azure expert, but now it's communication, it's presentation, it's emotional intelligence, it's executive presence. And you're no longer configuring things, you're building them. So take a step back. Think about all those collaboration things that Microsoft 365 could do. How does it solve customer problems? That's the critical key. What problems are you trying to solve? Then talk about how do you create a return on investment capital model to show the customer. Then what else do you need to do? Lots of cool stuff. So you need to understand what you're designing. That means learning the network and the data center. So those things. I'm not sure if you're here the whole time, Vinod, so I'm going to cover it again. For people that are here, apologies. You must understand the network, which means IPsec, VPN technologies, private line technologies. It means QoS policies. It means VLANs. It means trunking protocols. It means BGP tuning, BGP traffic engineering. It means NAT. And I don't mean just to connect to the internet, all the other use cases for NAT as well. It means knowledge of firewalls, how they work, why organizations use them, knowledge of IDS, IPS systems, and this is network stuff, knowledge of load balancers. Now, knowledge of file storage protocols, knowledge of storage airway networks, knowledge of servers, knowledge of rail virtualization protocols, knowledge of containers, knowledge of all the apps and deploying web apps, how they work, these kind of things. That's your architect knowledge. So That's how you can go either way if you did it on the Azure side. Now, you can do the same thing on the, what do you call it? On the AWS side with the Certified Solution Architect Professional. You can do the same thing with the GCP side. But because you have all that Microsoft background, it would look a little better to try and do the Azure expert for you than it would for somebody else. That's what I would do if I was you, Vinod. But it's the same set of skills. We could train you for that if you desire. We've got a program, or you can learn these skills. I just want to know that you have the skills and the knowledge to get to your goals. Yes, okay. I want to let you know how we approach things. You started with the question and I can't see the first part of it because it disappeared off the screen. I think you focus more on AWS in your trainings, not exactly. But what's my opinion on GCP? Do you think GCP will have more market share in the coming years? Okay, so here's the thing. I focus on cloud, not a single vendor. Every one of my students on every architecture call designs for at least 2 clouds. They design for the AWS cloud every time, and they take turns alternating the Azure cloud and the Google cloud. There is no possible way to build a cloud computing future with only knowing one cloud. It's not acceptable in today's world. It was in the beginning. Here's what happened. One of the cloud providers made a decision. They kicked someone out of their data center based on political views. And every CEO said, okay, ding, 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 ding. We could be shut down if we go to the cloud and they don't like us, but we do. So everything became hybrid cloud or multi-cloud literally overnight. So there is no possibility to just be good at one cloud. So all my students know how to work on all clouds. Now, here's the thing. If you understand the cloud, like my students build an OpenStack Ansible cloud, the cloud is like, basically, it's just like going to the store. It's irrelevant to me as the cloud architect. Well, I need a virtual machine. Okay. If I get an Azure virtual machine, an AWS EC2 instance, or a compute engine instance from Google, it's the same thing. I don't care. I know that my students do that. If I need a load balancer, I don't care if it's an Elastic load balancer on AWS or an Azure load balancer. It doesn't matter. If I need object storage, it doesn't matter if it's Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Blob, or X3, because I need object storage. So all of our training is designed on how to become a great cloud architect on all clouds. So here's how we look at certifications. We look at supply and demand curves. You remember them playing in graduate school, or college, if you took some economics curves? We're looking as follows. Supply and demand. So lots and lots of AWS people. Here's the thing. The certification has nothing to do with anything. I think getting an interview, so I don't really care. So you get an AWS certification and you've covered 50% market share. You do an Azure certification, you're covering 45%. You do a Google one and you're basically at 5% of all jobs. So for me, why did I do the Google one? Just for the fun of it. I read this iBooks book over the weekend and I took the exam. Do I think people should start with the Google certification? Absolutely not. Because it's hard enough to get these jobs without a lot of expertise and experience and a lot of coaching and a lot of executive presence communication skills. And you need an interview. That's what you need. You need the interview and you need the knowledge to win the interview. If you do the Google one, you only have the opportunity to apply for 5% of all the jobs, at best, maybe 10. That's it. So the chances of getting an architect job, unless you've got 20 years experience like me with just the Google one, is so small, I strongly don't recommend it. So I recommend the AWS. Now, why do I recommend the AWS over the Azure? One reason. When you look at the supply and demand curves, AWS people typically earn $30,000 to $40,000 more than Azure people. So because of that, over the 30-year career, that's worth $1.2 million. So I pick AWS as my number one player. Now, do you want to do a GCP on afterwards? If you're really good at Know the Cloud, like me, you can buy the Cybex book. Let me see if I can find it for you. And let's see if it'll also, if it'll even show up with my background. I know it's in here somewhere. I'll show you how you pass the Google Professional Cloud Architect in a weekend. Now, I'm also going to tell you that, if I can even find the book right now. Oh, it doesn't look like I can easily find it on my bookshelf. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of books. You have no idea. So you can buy the Cybex Professional Cloud Architect book in a weekend if you have any cloud knowledge, and literally pass that in a weekend. The Google test is an actual test. Here's what it does. They give you a case study and they ask you to solve a problem. It's not like the AWS exams. The AWS exams are more about AWS services. The Google exams are more about architecture. So If you're experienced, the Google exam is going to be much easier. If you're inexperienced, the Google exam is going to be 10 times harder than the AWS exam. Because the Google exam is actually about design to some degree, where the AWS exams are all about configuration and AWS services. The complexity with AWS exams is reading the questions and looking through the answers. The challenge with Google Cloud Architect exams is you might actually need to know something. So they're very different exams. So I love the Google exam. I took it myself, but I strongly recommend AWS first, GCP as a secondary one, and I think you're going to have the most marketability that way. Yes, I think the GCP certification is worth more only when you're already employed, you've got years of experience, and then go to Google because Google pays their employees really well, and Google employees are known to be very happy. So, but it's not going to be, it's going to be the hardest place to go to first. So that's why I would not recommend it that way. Don't worry about the number of certified people. That's irrelevant in today's world because, well, it's not irrelevant. Let's go back to this supply and demand curve. It's so hard. I mean, so hard to actually find anybody that knows anything about the cloud that literally speaking, if you walk in there and you're actually knowledgeable, you won't leave your first interview without getting hired. And let's go talk about this silly experience thing. If someone brings you in for an interview, it means they're willing to hire you. So let's talk about that one more time. If I bring you in to interview with me, it's because I desire to hire you. Now, I have no time. I literally speaking, don't even have time to leave my house because I'm on there. Executive and other businesses don't have any time. None, zero. So no hiring manager is going to interview you unless they think they can hire you. Not at all. Unless one other factor. Sometimes we in big organizations have to hire 3 people before we can hire the person we want. So sometimes we do 3 interviews and 2 of them are just designed to basically be like, okay, corporation, we did it, but we hired the person we promised the job to first. So that does happen. But otherwise, we don't bring people in for an interview unless we think we can hire you. Now, if we interview someone and they have no idea what the job is, think about it from the hiring manager perspective. I have the opportunity to say, you're not good enough. Sorry. Or, you know what? You're so good. You're so likable. Come back to me when you have more experience. Which sounds better? You can come to interview me and I could be like, you stink. Or, you know, I really like you. You're a little lacking experience. Come back to me soon. Which sounds better? They're both, I can't hire you. It's a euphemism. I care about your competency. Who do you want? The 14-year-old hacker that can break into the Pentagon to be on your security team? Or someone with 30 years experience? I can't do any of these things. You want the 14-year-old. Fight to be the best. Fight to be so good when that hiring manager sees you, they have no choice but to hire you. That's what we do for our students. That's what all my most successful people have done. That's why I've got 20-year-olds that are earning $200,000 a year working for big tech companies in their early 20s. It's not a big deal. You got to be exactly what they want, and that's what we teach. So please, when I keep talking about these soft skills, communication skills, I can't understate it. It's more important than you can possibly imagine to get these skills. It's the difference between hired and not hired. It's the difference between 80,000 and 180,000, these communication skills. It's the difference from going to 180,000 to 300,000 2 years later. It's executive presence, it's business acumen. We've all been there. You've all seen the non-technical engineer that earns the most money and gets presented while the most smart person on the team that's really great at doing it all gets held back. Don't let that be you. Be the best you can. Engineer, architect, who cares? Be the best technically you can. Don't negate those other skills. That's the secret to rapid career and rocket ship-like progression. So I really care, and that's why I'm giving you the secrets to our world and the elite technology spaces. Hi, Jawad. I'm so happy to see you here. It was nice speaking with you last night. Hi, Mike. Completion of AWS Professional is like designing a cloud? Not even close, Gopal. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is kind of an entry-level exam. They don't position it as entry-level, but it's kind of entry-level. It tells you all about the services in AWS, pretty much, you know, how they work together and how to configure them. But there's no concept of actually building a cloud in there or designing a cloud. I wish there was. I wish in my heart of all hearts that taking that exam actually meant something. It does help you get an interview, Gopal, but what we talk about in terms of design, and I don't know if you've ever been to any of my free architecture webinars, we were doing a lot of them for a period of time. It's just so different. Architecture, you start at the client, you ask their business, legal, technical, regulatory requirements, and goals. Certified solution architect professional. Object storage does this. Here's how you configure it. Like, often in a different universe. So certified solution architect professional is basically like intro to cloud engineering, where architecture it's a big role. It's a combination between an executive and an engineer. In fact, it's typically like a director level position, really senior architects. Sometimes they're VP level or above when you're dealing with enterprise architects. These are leadership positions, and that's why they pay so well. So completely different, Gopal. Hope I answered your question. Thank you so much, Jawad. I don't like mysticism. I don't like deception. I don't like marketing fluff. I don't like anything that obscures the truth. I come at the world very simply. Look, I've been an architect forever, and I've loved it. But you know where I come from? A martial arts background. I sit in the corner. I think, I ponder, I clear my mind. Martial arts turned into yoga. I've been involved in yoga for 15 years. And not only have I been involved in yoga, I'm the 500-hour, yoga instructor, the highest form you can be, because it teaches me how to clear my mind. It also teaches me how to do things a little differently. I live a basic life. I live simply. My needs and wants are simple. I like the truth. I like my cat. I love my cat, I should say. I love my wife. I love my family. I love to take care of others. That's what I do. So be honest, be ethical, be true, be yourself. Just get the right skills, and what you can achieve, Joelle, and everyone else is truly amazing. I know I really enjoyed speaking with you yesterday. Okay, Gopal, I want to make sure I answered your question. Vinod, I've been doing these every Tuesday for the last 3 to 4 months, where I've been giving people the chance to join, and absolutely, completely free chance to learn and design things. Thousands of people from all over the world have come. So we've done a lot of them. So we've done a lot of them. We'll periodically do them in the future. But this is really where we focus on our students in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It's really where we teach architecture work. Now, we may have some other means that we're going to be distributing content very similar to that, so stay tuned. We've got some other opportunities to try and enhance the services for the community at the lowest cost possible. So Vinod, stay tuned. Right now, we're the only people that I know that actually teach cloud architecture in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and more is coming soon. So, and our students, great. We've done these free every week for the last 3 months. We've got some new things that we're going to be working on, so we're going to take a backseat on that for a short period of time. But we'll have another way that we're going to release this coming very soon. So I hope I answered your question, Vinod. Okay, Michael or Michelle, it's hard to tell because I've seen that name spelled both ways. Do I think it's better to get a cloud developer cert rather than a solution architect? Just starts. So Michael or Michelle, I don't actually know what career you want. So certifications are not the start. Certifications are part of the path. First, I want you to think like an architect regardless of what you want to be. Here's what an architect does. They do the following. They speak with the client and figure out what the goal is. So, Michael, Michelle, what would I like you to do? I'd like to figure out what your goal is and tell me what your goal is. Once we know your goal, we can get you to your destination. So let's say I want to go to Chris's house. I have to know that I want to go to Chris's house. Otherwise, I'm just going to knock on every single door in Florida, basically saying, hey, where's Chris? It's not going to work out real well, I promise you. So if I want to be a doctor, I go to medical school. If I want to be a pharmacist, I go to pharmacy school. So I need to know exactly what you want to do. And then after that, then I'm in a position to very easily tell you, but I need to know what you need to do. Because if you want to be a developer on the cloud, sure, that might be good. But if you want to be a cloud architect, it's the worst thing you could possibly do by doing the developer associate. It's actually going to keep you from getting hired, lower your salary, and make you look like a software engineer as opposed to an architect. So tell me which career you want, and then I can give you some guidance. Love to help you. Great question, whatever. So a cloud architect is someone that takes customer requirements and solves customer requirements by giving them by designing things on the cloud. One cloud, many clouds, all those cool things. Now, guess what else? An enterprise architect is a much higher level. So I've been both. As a cloud architect, I'm focusing on the cloud. As an enterprise architect, I'm focusing on that business level. Now, this is where I like to play. I like to play the enterprise architect world most, and I've done it. But I need to teach you guys how to be cloud architects on the way to be enterprise architects. So as an enterprise architect, we're really focused exclusively on that executive level. We're designing to try and transform a business. We'll figure out technology solutions that are good. Maybe it's some cloud things, maybe it's new applications, maybe it's new robots, it doesn't matter. As enterprise architects, we're looking at business processes. Can we improve the processes? Can technology improve the processes? How do we make the system as a whole operate better through technology? So cloud architect is doing it on the cloud. Enterprise architect is up one level. Now, when we get to the enterprise architect world, we're much less technical and much more business savvy. So more need for business communication skills, executive presence, those kind of things. So that's that. Now, you asked me what a data architect is. A data architect is quite simply somebody that focuses on big data, and that's it. So the data architect is going to focus on the data ingestion, data storage, the data processing, and being able to do something with the decisions after the fact, the designer of those things. Now you know the difference between a cloud architect, enterprise architect, and a data architect. Liz, you have no experience in tech. Should you do the associate before taking my course or take the associate professional? Here's what I would say. I wouldn't do any of those. I would just take my course. I don't have a single graduate that doesn't get the certified solution architect professional. Here's what happens when people come to me with a certified solution architect professional. I ask them questions, and I can tell 99% of them don't have any of the skills necessary. So I start everybody at ground zero, regardless of their background. And guess what? By starting you guys at ground zero, certified, uncertified, I don't care. Everybody's going to be starting at a baseline. Unless you're a Cisco certified internet expert, chances are you've never worked with these technologies or designed them ever in your life. So even when I get software developers or I get anybody, it's such a different role to architecture, I start them at the baseline. I teach the network, the data center, the cloud, and all these business skills. If you were certified, I'd still have to start you at ground zero. It doesn't make a difference because the certification has no correlation to the actual job. So there's that. So first I would start you in either case. If you've completed these and spent 6 months doing it, I still have to start you at ground zero because that's not enough. So if you spend 6 months doing this on your own at $12,000 a month, which is the salary of the average cloud architect, it's going to cost you $72,000 of wasted effort. Then work with me, and 16 weeks later, I can get you hired. Or if you have no experience in tech, it's still going to take me 8 months, even after you do that on your own. It's really just it doesn't really solve any problems. So I like to start people. I like to teach people about object storage, block storage. I want them to know all it is and how it works. I want you guys to all understand virtualization and virtual machines. I want you to build virtual machines, build containers from scratch, the hard way. So when you see an exam question, it means something to you. It's kind of like, what if you took an exam on cooking, but you never saw food, you never saw spices, and you never saw cooking utensils, but you just took an exam on cooking? That's what these exams are. So it's meaningless information. So I start everybody, regardless of where they're at. I make sure they know what the cloud is, know what the data center is. I make sure they know how it all works because that's what they need to do. Then I build the business, the communication, and all these things. So it doesn't matter. We're happy to work with you now or later. In either case, the process is going to be the same. Doing the search on your own doesn't really do anything other than you don't have to worry about doing when you're in my program. But it'll be a lot easier on my program because we solve things. Can I guarantee a job? No, I can't guarantee a job. Here's the reasons why. I can give you every possible tool to do the job. And my students get hired all the time. Every possible tool. But if you don't show up for class, that's on you. I can't do that. If you don't do the projects, I can't guarantee you to do the projects. I can't go to your house every day and stand on top of you and jump up and down on the floor and say, do the homework, do the homework, do the homework. I love you. Please do the homework when I get you hired. I can't do that. So I can't guarantee factors that are out of my control. My students, if they choose not to do the work, I can't guarantee it. If my students do the work, they show up for class, they get hired. The students that get hired first are the ones that come to class. The students that don't are the ones that don't do it. But I get an email every day or every other day about a new student doing it. This week, one of my students with no background whatsoever got a cloud security architect. The previous week, 2 of my students got senior cloud architect jobs. One got it at Bearing Point, one got it at IBM. So there's lots of jobs. Not that hard to find them. You just have to be ready for them. But I hope I answered your question there, Liz. Okay, Michael, Michelle, now I've got the information. If you want to be a cloud developer, it is a completely bad skill and will actually mar or hurt your ability to actually become a cloud architect. Why? When you have these deep engineering things, you're going to be viewed as an engineer. Engineers have a hard time transitioning into architecture. The world has this impression of engineers, especially software programmers, that they've got Coke bottle thick glasses, they sit in the computer and have no personality. I'm not saying it's true, but that's what the perception is. Perception equals reality. I know some companies that will refuse to let engineers become architects because they refuse to study the business acumen, the communication skills, the emotional intelligence. So how do you become an architect then? You got to learn architecture. So the second you focus on all non-architecture things, you look like a jack of all trades. A jack of all trades and a master of none is not hireable. And when you do hire a jack of all trades and a master of none, their salary is half. So if it's going to be your first job, we got to make you look so good they can't resist you. So you want to be a solution architect, which is just a cloud architect that works on a single cloud versus every cloud. Again, I'd rather see you become a cloud architect because a cloud architect can work as a solution architect all the time, but a solution architect needs special training to become a cloud architect. So I train cloud architects, and that way you can work on any cloud. A solution architect only knows AWS or only knows Azure. So to be one, to be a cloud architect, certified solution architect associate first, skip the practitioner, certified solution architect professional next. Then figure out what kind of cloud architect you want to be. If you want to be a cloud infrastructure architect, focusing on the network, get like a CCNP. You want to be a cloud security architect, get something like a CEH or a CISSP or a CCCP or an offensive security certified professional. Get one of them. Build your networking knowledge, build your data center knowledge, build your presentation skills, business acumen, communication skills, build that resume, do the kind of labs we're talking about. Now you've got experience. You're not going to be getting hired by getting experience in someone else's job. So don't even do it. We architects don't code, not ever. The last time I learned how to code, I was an architect. My manager says, Mike, I'd like you to learn to code. And I said, do you really want me to learn how to code? And my manager said, no, but the CIO wants you to. So go do it. I said, you want me to code? My manager's like, this is crazy. He's like, I'm going to send you away. You're going to be gone. We're going to have a network outage. It's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars. And you're learning to code. And I've got cheap programmers that can do that. I said, well, my manager said, John says to me, but the CIO wants you to go, so go learn to code. So I go up to Sun Microsystems. I'm learning how to write a shell script. I'm like, why would I ever do this? But, all right, I'm here. They're paying me. I'm having some good steaks. I'm having some good wine and scotch. It's like a paid vacation. I don't have to work. I'm going to this training class. It's great. It was a bank. They had unlimited money, so I'm having fun. I get back, and they're like, thank God you're back. We had an outage. It was like for an hour. I'm so glad you're here. I don't ever want you to think about coding again. That was the last time I ever thought about coding. That was 20 years ago. And guess what? I became a full-fledged architect after that. After I became a full-fledged architect, I never touched the router again. I never touched the switch again. I never touched a code, a script, nothing, because I was an architect. As an architect, I was meeting with clients and designing. Now, I worked on billion-dollar designs, lots of them, and closed some of them too. I did designs that were so big, they transformed big banks, big service providers, big cable companies. I did it all, but I was an architect, so I never even touched the screen, never even used my computer, again, as an architect for anything other than writing documents, presenting things, and making Visio diagrams at the time. And PowerPoint presentations. You got to know what the job is. You got to be an expert at the job. Architects are designers. So don't learn coding to be an architect. Don't learn engineering how to be an architect. Learn how to be an architect. So what does an architect do? They create and design a solution from scratch. They design it. That's it. They design it. What goes into designing a solution, Vinod? A lot. So I'll give you an example. I was the lead architect for a voice solution for a major bank. Voice, data, video, cloud, it's irrelevant. It's all the same job. I met with this global bank. They wanted to create an environment where a financial advisor would get a phone call and he would see everything on the computer screen that their customers liked, meaning their assets, their liabilities, their risk tolerance, all kinds of great transformational experiences. Here's what my job as an architect was, to design it. So I met with the customer. I went there every day. Every day. I asked questions. There was a team of upwards of 50 people that literally spent 6 months, I'm not joking, 6 months, evaluating the current systems, baselining the current systems, finding out what was connected to what, because you'd be surprised. 50 people, months, millions and millions of dollars just to find this information. This information plus what the customer told me was given to me. Then I was able to craft the solution, which was then built by 16 other engineers. Now, I was the lead designer of the solution. I'm an architect, but I'm asking a QoS person, I'm asking a voice person, I'm asking a computer telephony integration person, I'm asking IVR people for call routing, I'm asking PBX people. I did it all. They're all part of the team. So, don't negate or think this design piece is strong or small. It's huge. It may take millions of dollars to actually figure out what the design is going to be for certain companies. Millions of dollars to baseline things. And these architectures can be $1 billion. Easy. $100 million architectures, you're going to be doing them all the time if you're a senior cloud architect or principal architect or distinguished architect like me. That's all you're going to do. So, but it's design. We create the solutions from scratch. We design it from scratch. We start as, what is the best solution? What is your customer goal? That's where the design is. And if we need to just take things and move them to the cloud, we can take them as is, but we just translate it to an architecture. But it's really about design. Hope I answered your question. Nelson, welcome. I'm so happy to see you. Raiden Space. You're already comfortable with Linux. Excellent. You're a few weeks of getting a CCNA. Excellent. Does the solution architect path align with your experience? Well, I don't know about your experience. You just told me certifications. So, Raiden Space, what is your experience? Are you working? What are you doing? If you're asking me if your certifications are in line, the answer is the CCNA is a great start. But I don't actually know what your experience is. You mentioned experience, but you didn't list it. So if you let me know, Raiden, I'll let you know. Jalo, what a great question you have. Is the Cloud Architects Experience Program the same as the Career Development Program on a technical level? Not exactly. So here's what I mean by that. The Cloud Architect Career Development Program includes live training. So on Mondays and Fridays, there's live lectures. The Experience Program is on your own. The Cloud Architect Career Development Program is, there's about 500 hours of content you could actually get. The Cloud Architect Career that's the Cloud Architect Career Development. The Experience Program is basically 15 or 20 architecture videos, plus, some AWS training, plus labs, and more labs, and some architecture projects. So they're very different. What is the Career Development Program? That is our one-stop shop to create a cloud architect. What is our Experience Program? I've been telling people for years, you want to be a great cloud architect, buy your own server, 16 cores, 128 gigs of RAM, NVMe drives or SSDs and RAID 0. I've been telling my students forever to do this. And guess what? I sensed what was going on in the market. Remember, I've been an IPT futurist. I've been someone working with industry trends and advising leaders on how to optimize their technology based upon industry trends. I've spent decades doing it, part of being like an enterprise architect, senior leader like I was. So because of that, I sensed servers were getting expensive. So I went and bought, a lot of servers, just a lot of them. And then I created a path for people to basically just do rental server access, and I called it the Experience Program. I created that Experience Program for the wonderful people that we get in developing nations that couldn't afford to buy a server on there, and that was the main point. And I felt really bad about it, so I threw in a lot of cloud training to make it more than just server rental. But I recommend the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and that's the one we typically talk about. I hope I answered your question there. Radon space. The radon and geophysicist, that makes kind of makes sense together. So now I understand what your certification is. You said you also said you're presently interviewing for a systems engineer, which requires some cloud experience. Well, systems engineer might be an architecture role. I don't really know what kind of systems engineer. What I mean by that, many systems engineering roles are pre-sales, meaning meet with the client, with the sales rep, ask the business, legal, and technical requirements, and design a solution. So many of these systems engineering roles are actually architect roles, are close to architect roles. So with a different name. In fact, many of these systems engineering roles are far more than some of these fake architecture roles that are software developers. So I don't know what you mean by the systems engineer role, because it could be pre-sales or post-sales, usually pre-sales. That could be both. So what I would say is, if you build up that business acumen, and I'm assuming in the geophysicist space, you're consulting with clients, you're making recommendations, for example, on what kind of drills, how to dig deep, ground pressures, those kind of things, densities. I don't know, but if you're doing something like that, and you're calculating that in your head, and you're convincing the customer of what they need, that's an architect skill all the way. So basically speaking, that's an architect skill. CCNA, basic intro to the data center, intro to the network. CCNP would be a really good, strong one for you to have, especially since you have no experience. If I had no experience, I'd probably get the CCNP from the network side. I would then get the solution architect associate straight to the professional. And then I would start learning design skills and do that. So that would be a good path for you. Don't neglect the business communication skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. Don't neglect that for a second. That is really important. So the question is really, what is exactly that systems engineering role? Because guess what? The CCNA, good start. Very, very in line. Certified solution architect professional, yes. Then if you can figure out which part of the cloud you want to be on, that'll tell you what your next certification would be. The fact that you're comfortable with Linux is excellent. So I like that. Maybe you get a Red Hat certified engineer. Combine that with a CCNP. Combine that with a certified solution architect professional. And all of a sudden, your lack of experience is looking really, really, really strong. Or do the CCNP and the certified solution architect professional, looking strong. Do a security certification with the certified solution architect professional, still really strong. The key with you when you don't have a skill is to, on paper, shine so bright that the hiring manager needs to bring you in for an interview. And then after you're interviewed, that's the time. After you're interviewed, that's the time to demonstrate and wow people. So don't apply for jobs. Get executive recruiters to work for you. Bypass HR, go straight to the hiring manager, because someone like you without experience can't go to HR, can't apply for jobs directly, because it's going to be a lot harder to get them. So you're on the right path, but also don't neglect the other communication skills and things that I'm describing. Just so critical. Vinod, what would be the path for what? When you're doing cloud and transformation, I don't know what that means. Path to be an engineer, path to be an architect, path to be a DevOps person. I just don't know what you mean. Love to answer it, but I need more information. Now, Nelson, that is an exceptionally good question. So here's the thing. I love networking and I love security for the following two reasons. With networking, it's not on anybody's list of exciting. Guess what? Nobody knows networking. Nobody. A very small number of people do it compared to the amount of needs of networking. Because of this, because there's so few people in networking, networking salaries are really high. If you're good. If you're not good and all you know how to configure things on the network, networking salaries are not high. But as a good network architect, you can earn a lot more than you can as a cloud architect if you've got really good architecture skills. So you combine these network architect skills, really good, with cloud architect skills, you have an unbelievable career. So I love this, and I love it so much. That's why, me and my friend Imran are creating a cloud network architect program. Because when you look at supply and demand curves, it's always up there because nothing works without the network. Now, having said all of this, why do I love security? Following reasons. One, the more things are open, the more they're going to get hacked. The more stuff gets out there, the more important your critical needs are. The more things are stored, the more things you need to do. Why else do I like infrastructure? And why else do I like security in the cloud? The cloud is less secure than the data center. I'm going to say it again. The cloud is less secure than the data center. And it's not because the cloud provider is doing anything wrong. They're awesome. But in the data center, you control access to your building. If you want to hire Navy SEALs that are armed to stand outside your data center, you can do it. You control all ingress, all points coming into your systems and all points coming out. You control it all in a traditional network and data center. You're responsible for all of it. If you have the right people in your data center, you can do anything at better performance, more secure than the cloud, anytime. You're dealing with real routers, real switches, which enable you to do things like private VLANs, QoS policies, 802.1x authentication. You can't do those on the cloud. You can implement QoS policies in your network. You can't do this on the cloud. So you can make your data center much more secure. So on the cloud, you got to look at it realistically. Cloud providers are awesome. If I hack into your enterprise, I get access to your enterprise. If I hack into the cloud like Azure was hacked into just a few weeks ago, you get access to 50, hundreds of thousands of customers' business information, access to all their databases. I mean, look at the scope of that breach. Why? It's not that Azure did anything wrong. Azure is an incredibly great cloud. I love the Azure cloud. It's awesome. But here's what's going on. Same thing for AWS. Same thing for GCP. It doesn't matter. If you attack them, you get access to all their customers. That's a high-value target. You hit my home, what do you get? Photos of my cat, Cindy? So cloud is a huge target. Now on the cloud, you can't really use the same grade of firewalls. The cloud native things aren't necessarily as strong as the things you can get from Cisco or Juniper or Palo Alto. But remember, these are hardware devices. Now when you go to the cloud, it's all software on an EC2 instance, for example, or in a virtual machine on Azure. Doesn't have the power of what you've got in the data center. So now you're in the cloud, which is a shared medium, which gives you more potential to be hacked. Then you have access to less tools. And three, you can't control as much of the network security. So the cloud is hacked all the time. Every day the cloud's getting hacked. 16% of all hacks on the cloud are related to 16% are related to misconfigured S3 buckets, just literally S3 buckets on AWS. So because of that, unlimited jobs in cloud security, more stuff goes in the cloud, the more the security is going to matter. It's equally important in the data center, but in the data center, you're more controlled. In the cloud, you've got less control, so you need even more security. So you want to be great or networking security, you'll have lots of options. Different paths, choose what you love, Nelson, and you're going to do great. Who's next? What will be the path you're into cloud migration and transfer? Okay, Vinod, have you been working on digital transformation? Have you ever worked with an organization and asked the executives about their business, their goals, their challenges, and designed the overall architecture for them? Whether it be cloud, network, data center, compute, mobile phones, RFID tagging, anything like that? Let me know and I can give you a better answer. Because going from cloud architect, which is easy, to digital transformation, that is a huge jump. So let me know a little bit and I'll give you some advice. So Vinod, I see there's a yes, but I don't know what that means. Are you currently doing these things? And if so, what are you doing? Oh, you're typing it now? Okay, I'll wait till I see this and I'll give you an answer. I'm assuming by working on it now, you mean you're actually working on actually typing it in the box? Okay, so you're designing and planning. Okay, Vinod, do you start with the customer? Do you start with the CEO? Are you the one asking them their business legal goals, their pain points, their challenges, what problems actually exist? You're doing that now. Okay, good. So if that's what you're doing, that's very in line with either architecture or, these digital transformation things. It's pretty much the same. So if you're starting at the CEO and you know how to map out business processes and redesign business processes, and then interact and assess the organization's employees, figuring out what their challenges are, and then you're designing an end-to-end solution, which can include some software, it could include some cloud, it could include some new resources, some business process reengineering, maybe new mobile devices, maybe new apps. If that's what you're doing, you are in great shape. So what I would say is as follows. To really get there, I recommend really elevating the writing and speaking skills. Everything that you write should be so clear that a person can read it and instantly know in as few words as possible. That's going to be number one. That's going to be very critical to your success there. Number two, making sure your presentation skills are up to snuff. Number three, making sure you can show that customer, I don't know if you've done any ROI modeling, where you can evaluate the expected value of the solution if it works, the percent chance that it's going to work, the expected value if it does work, then examine the company's weighted average cost of capital, and then try and show an ROI model that shows, the value of your solution is more than mitigated by the value of solution more than mitigates the cost of the solution, assuming you know how to do that. Then, if you're doing that and you're doing it in digital transformation, you're good. You can stay in digital transformation. If you're going to do that on the cloud, you're going to take that same thing, and then you're going to need to know the network and the data center and all the cloud services and all the pieces and parts fit together. That's what you need to do it on the cloud. I'm not sure why you'd want to go from digital transformation to cloud architect. If you're truly doing digital transformation, you're one of those digital transformation architects, truly doing it the way I've done it as an enterprise architect, that is a much higher paying job, and it's a much more senior role than the cloud architect. So if you love the cloud, I get it. Or if you're doing a more junior version than the digital transformation architect, I get it too. So let me know more. But otherwise, those would be the skills that you would need to do. You'd need to learn the network, the data center, and the cloud to take what you're doing and move it to the cloud architect role. But if you're really a digital transformation architect and you're really at that executive level all day long, and you're truly designing those end-to-end systems, and you're truly making recommendations and integrating things to change people's business processes and work, there's a lot more potential in that career. So I would master that, improve the communication skills, improve the overall knowledge, learn all the technology that you're going to have better options there. So then that's my advice for you. I've done architecture and I've done digital transformation and enterprise stuff, and that's my world. I love it. So hope I answered your question there. I'm being told that I should ask for, if you're enjoying this content, to like, subscribe, and share with others. And Anoop, cloud architects should know what DevOps are. We will not code, we will not configure. We need to understand the DevOps process. So when we work with DevOps engineers, we know what they're doing. Are we doing automation? No, of course not. We're designers, so wouldn't worry about that. IAC, I don't know what you mean by that. The thing with acronyms is they can mean anything. Does IAC mean identity and access control? Maybe. Does IAC mean international something or other? I don't know what you mean. So don't use acronyms in business communication. That's one of the things I have to do when I teach engineers how to become architects, is not to use acronyms and not to use buzzwords, because it confuses people. Strip words like elastic, strip words like multi-directional, strip words that make anything complicated. And get back to this page. Oh, infrastructure as code. Okay, so Anoop, if you're going to be an architect, you're not going to be doing infrastructure as code. You're going to be designing. So none of these are architect skills. So you should know what DevOps is. You should understand that there's things like Terraform. that can take your design and build a lot of it with code. You should know that. But you are not going to be doing that if you want to be an architect. All it is design, 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 present, design, sell, present, design, sell, design, design, communicate, lead, educate, design, design, design. That's the job. No coding, no automation, and nothing to do with infrastructure as code if you want to be an architect. But see, now you've seen why IAC is kind of something why never to use these acronyms. They can mean anything to anybody. Any other questions? I can go for 5 more minutes today. Any other questions? Okay, I'll give you guys all about 2 more minutes for questions. And after that, I will let you guys go about your day. We got a lot of really exciting things coming. We're going to be doing a lot more questions and answers, so lots of cool stuff's coming. So if anybody has any last questions, great. I should ask you to leave a like, a comment, or a subscribe. And if you guys are having fun, could you let me know by typing Cloud Architect in the chat box? Anoop, wonderful. I really wanted to give you guidance the best I could. Vinod, wonderful. Rada, I'm so happy to help. You know, Nelson, here's the thing. Entry-level jobs are becoming challenging. I just released a video about it today. Here's the problem with entry-level jobs. Everybody gets done school and everybody's applying for them. Now, let's look at the current economic environment, Nelson. Current economic environment is as follows. First, global pandemic. Who do companies lay off? The people that are the second best or third best. So they laid off a huge amount. So now, if I'm an organization, I've got the second best or third best that is laid off, or someone with no experience, making it really hard to get a job with no experience for these entry-level jobs. Next, competition for every college graduate that just graduated recently, who are not being hired. Pooh. Now let's look at entry-level jobs. Where'd they all go? Well, what were entry-level jobs? Well, when I was new, here was an entry-level job. The person that would buy the servers, they would rack them, stack them, screw them in, cable them, install the operating system. We don't need that anymore. It's on the cloud. 3 seconds, I can do what used to take upwards of 4 hours of an engineer's time and 6 weeks to do. Done with the cloud. So, patch management. Lots of junior entry-level people for this. Cloud. Automated patch management. Done. Just eliminated 30 jobs. Okay, now, network monitoring, system monitoring. Normal world, 10 people, entry-level job. Cloud, 1 person, maybe 2, with tools to do it all for you. So, getting an entry-level job, I hate to say this, in many cases is harder than getting someone a good cloud architect job in today's world. So, upskill yourself, Nelson. Prepare for the best. Make yourself so good, so capable, so wonderful, so strong, they have no choice but to hire you. So I never took an entry-level job. My first job was a senior network engineer. Within 6 months, I was an architect. I've got lots of students graduating all the time that are taking senior architect jobs or even cloud architect jobs. The lowest we typically get is a solution architect job in most cases. Occasionally, someone takes a cloud engineer. And you know when they take a cloud engineer job? I can tell you all the time. If they don't focus on the soft skills, emotional intelligence, presence, they're only able to be engineers. So apply for jobs, apply for something that you want. Where you start affects your long-term goals. Your starting salary, guess what happens? If somebody hires you for $100,000, you know what your raise is going to be next year? $100,500. If they start you at $150,000, at least you're there. If they start you at $200,000, you're there. The path to go from $200,000 to $300,000 is easy. But the past the what do you call it? The path to go from new junior to something really serious is really, really, really hard. So that's kind of one of those kind of perspectives I have used. So best way I can describe it. Any last minute questions for me? And then I am beyond late for some of the things that I actually have to do, but I just really want to give you guys as much time as necessary. M. Mac, Marithi, it's always wonderful to hear from you. John Matthew, thanks so much. You're welcome. Anything I can do to help, Nacho Max, you're welcome. Thrilled to help. Jayton Shaw, so nice to speak with you. Nelson is always wonderful to see you and hear from you. Ragava, you're more than welcome. Anything I can do to help. And Mac, every interaction I've had with you from the beginning has been something. We love you too. I got to tell you, what you're doing over there in England and where you're from and how hard you worked, I have the deepest respect for you. You have no idea. Niraj, you're welcome. I'm so happy I could help. Smella, thank you so much. I love talking about tech. I'm excited by it, as you can tell, because I'm all over the place. When I left medicine and moved to tech, it was the best thing I've ever done, and I've been trying to share the word ever since. Gopal, you're more than welcome. Thanks for coming. Vinod, you're welcome. I'm so happy you were here. Love the Superman avatar. And the smiley face, actually. Larry, it's been nice to speak with you. Chris, Sloan, thrilled you're loving the Solutions Architect course. We released that completely free. Philip, you're more than welcome. So happy to see you here. I'll keep doing it. Larry, you're welcome. It's so good to see you here. Chris, I'm so happy to hear you love the Solutions Architect course. That's why I produced it out there. I really want to give people a chance to let you know there's a Certified Solution Architect Professional course and an AWS Advanced Networking course. And again, they're all free. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in another video, another live stream very soon. I'm going to be back with my good friend Sandeep Davs tomorrow. We're going to do a cloud migration. He's a great friend. And on Friday, I'm going to be here with the global program manager, project manager, Andrea Ikaza. Let me tell you, I've worked with Andrea for more than 2 decades. She's a person I know, I trust, and I respect beyond words that I can't even describe. And I want her to share her experience in managing projects that are major projects, that are these big, giant global projects. I've worked with her on projects in multiple continents all at the same time, and she is one of the best. So I bring the best to you to give you the best experience. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in another time very soon.